My entitled sister-in-law removes me and the rest of my family from her wedding photos entirely, as she literally made it seem like we did not even exist. So I decided to get some revenge by returning the favor in full, by choosing to eviscerate her from my wedding entirely, while also humiliating her in the process. Here's what happened. When my brother got married, his bride, who's now my sister-in-law, had very specific expectations. She wanted everyone in the family to wear their wedding colors, and we all did. People flew in from out of state. Everyone made an effort to make her feel celebrated. Well, the day before the wedding, she made some offhand but clearly pointed remarks about how our side of the family never takes anything seriously, and how she wasn't expecting us to take this seriously either. Well, the comments made their rounds and feelings were hurt before the wedding even began, but we still showed up, looked great, and we participated. Fast forward to getting the wedding photos and video, and not a single photo of our side of the family was posted. Not a single one. In the entire 3-minute highlight reel, there was literally no faces of our family, except for a 3-second clip of my parents with a bride and groom. The rest of us were cut out as if we didn't even exist. I texted her very cordially, mind you, and I asked if she could send me the pictures with just our siblings since none had been posted, and she responded to me by saying, "Oh, we never even took those pictures." But that's wild because I remember helping people adjust corsages for them, but then she just doubled down on the gaslighting. I gave it 6 months and then I asked again, and then suddenly she had no idea what I was talking about. So I thought to myself, fine, if you want to act that way, then trust me, I could do the exact same thing. And this is where my petty revenge comes into play. I'm getting married in 8 days and I've been engaged for 6 months, and I've been planning this moment since she tried to erase us. I hired a great photographer and videographer, and what she doesn't know is that the videographer has a secret mission. Make it look like she's getting all the attention. Track her, hover near her like she's the star of the show. Make her feel seen, and then during the final cut, she won't appear for even a second, just like the way she made sure that we didn't. Now, originally, I didn't even invite her. Now, word must have gotten out because she cornered me at a family dinner, and she said to me, "Unfortunately, I have work the day before and after your wedding, but I should still be able to make it." Well, I was so stunned. I just said to her, "That's fine. The Airbnb is booked whether you're there or not." So now, unfortunately, she's coming. And just to cope with this, I decided to spell her name wrong on the wedding invite on purpose. And that was just my first move, with the video blackout being my last. Now, here's the thing. I'm not asking for advice, and I'm not asking if it's too mean, because it's not. It's exactly fair, and trust me, she definitely deserves it. Oh man, I love some mutually assured destruction. First of all, your sister-in-law sounds like an absolute jerk. And trust me, I could have said a lot of different words than jerk, but I think you know what I'm trying to say. Who in their right mind would go into a new family and be like, "Oh, let's edit them out of my highlight reel"? It's like, my God, dude, at least pretend like you like your in-laws. Like, why would you start that foundation for a lifelong of dealing with these people? That doesn't seem smart or wise in the slightest. Like, that really is a miscalculation. So you know what? I completely agree with the original poster. Your sister-in-law deserves to be eviscerated from your highlight reel. Like, not even a second of her should ever be shown, because that's what she did to you. And then she tried to act like, "Oh, we didn't even get pictures of you guys." Like, that's obnoxious because you know for a fact she coordinated that never being shown. So yeah, in this case, an eye for an eye truly is the best solution, because this lady sounds like she's a complete monster. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for telling my friend that I know I'm smarter than him after he literally ranked me as the dumbest person in our friend group? Because right now, apparently, he's really offended that I said that, and now I feel like some of my friends are turning against me in favor of him. Here's what happened. I'm a 19-year-old female, and I have a friend who's also 19 who likes to lie a lot. Like, I'm not even exaggerating. He lies about random stuff constantly and forgets what he even said. He's told people that we've been friends for years, longer than we actually have been, which makes no sense because they could just ask me. He even said he lived in a 3-story house when he was in a double wide, and even made up how much money he has. His lies are almost always easy to fact check, and honestly, I've never judged him for any of that. I was raised not to care about superficial stuff like that. But one thing that's always been weird is that he loves to act like he's better than everyone, especially when it comes to academics. In high school, he claimed to be on honor roll all 4 years, never failed a class, had a GPA of 4.0, and all this other garbage. But I saw him taking credit recovery senior year, and one of my friends saw his grades on a teacher's computer, and they were really bad. And by bad, I mean like really bad. But even still, I never brought it up. I didn't judge him because we all struggle sometimes. In fact, I opened up to him once and told him I technically failed Spanish, but my teacher passed me in the end. He then started making fun of me and calling me names, which I didn't take personally because I know that's just projection. Anyways, fast forward to a recent trip to Walmart with our friend group, and somehow we start talking about academics academics. He then decides to rank everyone from smartest to dumbest, and guess what? He puts me in the last place. And that really annoyed me because I knew for a fact that he was failing and lying, and I'd never corrected him before. So I finally said, you know what? I know I'm smarter than you academically, but I've just never cared to correct you on it. Well, he got really upset about that and hasn't spoken to me ever since then. Some of my friends said that I was being mean, but others said that he had it coming. So seriously, am I at fault here? Because I honestly don't know what to do. Okay, I'm speechless that anybody's on this guy's side. Like, seriously, he's absolutely at fault. He ranked you the stupidest person in your friend group. How is that in any way justifiable? Like, are you kidding me right now? Oh yeah, he's just gonna sit there and call you dumb, and then the second you turn the tables, suddenly that's too far? Like, that's really stupid in my opinion. And the fact that any of your friends are trying to be like, oh yeah, you just went a little too far, that's really mean. Like, those people suck. I would never want to like talk to them ever again and be like, oh, so you do think I'm the stupidest person in the group. Like, what is going on right now? How is that at all defendable? So in case you were wondering, no, you're definitely not the jerk. This guy's an idiot, and in my opinion, it was only a matter of time before somebody called him out. The entitled neighborhood bully is a Karen who's getting way too close to being served a cease and desist, because this lady feels the need to constantly tell me what I can and can't do about my property, and at this point, I've hit my breaking point and I'm about to snap. Here's what's going down. Okay, to start things out, there's a neighbor who thinks it's okay to tell everyone what to do with their own property. Every time she decides to talk to anyone, she stands in the street or in their yard, shouting for them like she's calling a dog. She talks at people instead of to them, and is the rudest person in the entire neighborhood. In fact, yesterday, she was in the street yelling, and she didn't say anything that indicated to me that she was trying to get my attention. I've lived in places where yelling in the street means that the person is either like high on some substance, or they're just straight up crazy, so I was just attending to my pets and not paying attention to her. Now, my name is not Missy, Misty, or Hey You. I don't answer to random crap like that. She finally got my attention, and I told her that she can't yell at me like I'm a dog. She then claimed that she didn't, but other neighbors agree that she definitely did. She started saying that we have to cut vines and stuff out of the fence between the two yards, and said that she was going to call code enforcement if we didn't. My cousin went out as soon as he got home, as he lives here too, and he cut the vines and plants even though the roots of everything that she was talking about are from her side of the fence. Well, this morning she called code enforcement anyways because she didn't like being told that she can't talk to us like we're dogs, and that she needs to keep herself off of our property. We have a barrel that we have some unusable metal in, and it's not for trash. And she's put trash in it and claimed that we've been using it for trash and rainwater. And trust me, even that jerk from code enforcement was baffled by that. Part of what bothers me is that she has multiple code violations on her property, but still she tries to tell everyone else what she wants them to do with theirs. While we're outside working on getting things situated the way the code enforcement officer told us to do so, she literally drove past slowly, mean mugging us the entire time. My husband even yelled out, "What do you want?" She then just drove off down the street, passing her property instead of going home. This lady is stupid if she thinks we're gonna keep putting up with her shenanigans. If she continues to do this stuff, I will serve her a cease and desist. The last neighbor to receive one from me got a crash course in the legality of such a notice, and almost caught charges from the police as well as the civil case we were about to file if pushed. So this Karen has seriously pushed me to my breaking point, because right now I'm not sure what to do. Oh man, I love this so much. I love the fact that you're standing up for yourself and saying, oh no, we will absolutely go the legal route. The original poster and some of the comments they made down below in their post, they said that the neighbor directly across the street from her is already compiling footage from his camera, which according to the original poster will show everything that they need. And that's really exciting. Like, if there's anything you really want, it's evidence in a case like this. Because you know for a fact this Karen's gonna lie through her teeth. If it does go to court or any kind of like legal matter, first off, I don't know what goes into anything like that, but also you can bet that she's gonna be like, oh, I never did that. I'm a good member of the neighborhood. But hopefully overall, none of that goes there. Like, that's just gonna be annoying. And hopefully this stupid Karen gets a life and leaves you alone, because you guys are literally just trying to live your life in peace. And the last thing you need is some idiot trying to tell you what you can and can't do. Today, I messed up by trying to flirt with a guy at the gym and eventually ending up in a full-blown CPR situation. And I'm honestly so embarrassed, and I don't think I can ever go back to that gym ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, this happened yesterday, and I'm still cringing so hard I might never step into that gym ever again. I'm a 22-year-old female, and I recently started going to this new gym, and there's this insanely cute guy who works out around the same time as me. I've been trying to find the courage to talk to him for a couple of weeks, and yesterday I finally decided it was time. I saw him doing deadlifts, and I thought, okay, casual compliment, easy in. So I walked by, I smiled, and I said, your lats are majestic. I thought to myself, what am I doing? Majestic? What was I thinking? I don't know why I said that. I meant to say you're lifting a lot, or nice form, or literally anything else. He was confused and said, thanks? And I panicked and decided to just walk away and and die in the locker room. While trying to speed walk away in embarrassment, I tripped over a medicine ball somewhere left in the way. My face planted on the floor, and I knocked the wind out of myself so hard I couldn't breathe for like 20 seconds. A trainer saw it happen and thought I was having a heart attack and started actual CPR protocol before I could wheeze out, "I'm fine." Well, that same cute guy helped me hold my legs up while I got oxygen. I'm pretty sure right then I died inside. Anyways, I'm now the CPR girl at the gym, and yes, I still plan to go back even though I really feel like I can't. Oh my god, this is like worst case scenario. In fact, this is something that you would see straight out of a sitcom. Like seriously, you walked up to him and talked about his majestic lats, tripped, and then nearly died. Like you just almost died right there on the ground. And that poor trainer's like, "Oh my god, someone's having a heart attack. Finally, the CPR certification is gonna come into play." And they actually started doing CPR protocol in front of the guy while you're there like, "Oh my god." With him holding your legs up, dude, I would die. I completely understand. So I'm right there with you, man. If you gotta switch gyms, do it now. It's totally fine. Or better yet, double down and be like, "I don't care, I'm going back." Because sure, it was embarrassing, but it's not impossible to get over. Am I the jerk for refusing to let my father officiate my wedding? Because after I told him that I don't want him to do that, he acted incredibly entitled and freaked out, demanding that I apologize for even suggesting that he not be allowed to do it. And at this point, I seriously do not know what to do. Here's what happened. So my father has been a reverend for 30 years. He and my mother are still married and they have 2 children, my sister and myself. Now, neither my sister or myself have a good relationship with my parents. They weren't downright physically awful towards us, but both of them are definitely narcissists. And some of the things they did left deep psychological scars that I still deal with to this day. It has always been a running joke from my parents that my dad would perform our wedding ceremonies and christen our children. This was the standard practice for my sister's wedding and the birth of her child. This, however, is not something that I want. I can't have my father preach to me and my husband to be about love when he has rarely shown it to me throughout my childhood. So a few weeks ago, my fiance and I were having dinner with them and we were discussing our plans for the future. My dad said something along the lines of, "I wonder what message I could give at your ceremony." And I shot him down immediately, saying that I did not want him to perform the ceremony. He then got mad and asked me to explain myself, almost like I had told him that I had unalived someone. I then told him that I still wanted him to walk me down the aisle, which made him blow up even more. I finally said that he could choose between being my father or being my pastor, and that was the end of the conversation and then the end of the dinner. He's now demanding that I apologize because apparently it's his right as my father to perform the ceremony. He's even saying he's not going to pay for my wedding, and he's saying that if he doesn't perform the ceremony, he and my mother will not be attending. I'm now considering cutting all contact and eloping, but I'm scared I would miss them when the big day comes along. So am I the jerk for the direction I've gone? Because right now I'm still incredibly pissed off. Holy cow, you're not kidding. He really is a narcissist. This guy's demanding an apology all because you're like, "No, I don't want you to do the ceremony for my wedding." Which, by the way, it's your wedding. You can literally do whatever you want. So for him to be like, "Oh, this is ridiculous. I demand to be the pastor at your wedding." Like, that's really obnoxious. I don't blame you for being like, "No, you're not doing it this time. This is weird." So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your dad's being super entitled by like assuming this is something he's going to do no matter what. Because at the end of the day, just like I've said before, this is absolutely your choice. And you should definitely not be held captive by your dad's wishes. Today, I lost a 5-year friendship overnight, all because I tapped her on the backpack to get her attention. Because now she's claiming that I tried to hurt her, despite the fact that I was just trying to get her attention and talk to her. And at this point, I'm so weirded out that I may have done something wrong that I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my 22-year-old friend and I were at the library late until like 2 o'clock in the morning. She then suddenly decided to leave and she started walking off before I could offer to go with her. I didn't want her walking home alone that late. So I called out to her a few times as we were still inside the well-lit library around other students, but she still didn't respond. Now I figured that she had her headphones in or something like that. So I gently tapped her backpack to get her attention. She then got startled and said that I scared her. I immediately apologized and I told her I just wanted to walk her home so she wouldn't be alone that late. She then said that she was fine going alone, so I said okay and I stayed to study. Well, since then she's been completely passive-aggressive, ignoring me, giving me the cold shoulder, etc. We had plans to take senior pictures together, which she agreed to do weeks ago, and now she says she doesn't want to do them anymore. When I asked what was going on, she said she felt uncomfortable around me and thought I might hurt her in the future, and that I should be grateful that she wasn't reporting me to the authorities. And when she said this, I was stunned. I explained that I never meant to scare her and apologized again, but I told her that calling me aggressive over lightly tapping her bag just to get her attention felt really extreme. I asked her to report it if she truly believed that I meant her harm. I mean, there are cameras in the library that could back up what happened, but at that point, she finally backed off. And honestly, this isn't the first weird moment we've had. Months ago, we were play fighting and I lightly slapped her arm in a joking way. You know, stuff that friends would do. She then hit back harder and then told me to get out of her car and not touch her ever again. When she did this, I was shocked, but I apologized because I understand boundaries, and I know how being touched without consent can be triggering. What really hurt though was what happened the night at the library. That night at the library, she had pressured me to open up about my own experience with some scary situations, which I eventually did, and afterwards her energy totally shifted. I mean, I thought she would understand given her own experiences, but she barely spoke to me after that and then just decided to walk off. I feel like this is part of a bigger pattern with her, where she always needs to be the more hurt one. I told her on the phone call today that I can't be friends with someone who sees me as a threat, especially with my own history of some awful stuff that's happened to me. She then said to me, well, I can't be friends with someone who can hurt me. So honestly, am I at fault here? Because at this point, I am so devastated by what's going on. Dude, your friend sucks. Let me just say that first and foremost, you didn't do anything wrong. Because first of all, I think you have it right. I really think she really believes she has to be like the center of attention. And also, just to clear the air, of course you didn't attack her. Like, that's just a ridiculous statement for her to make. Like, come on, you were tapping her on the shoulder. You were not like going after her to try and hurt her. She's overreacting and trying to blow this up into something that it's not. So if this was me and I had someone saying this kind of thing to my face and being like, oh, I can't be friends with you. You could hurt me one day. I can't have that. I would see this as a blessing from the universe and be like, okay, see you later. Because this is some insane behavior and you do not deserve to deal with this in the slightest. Am I the jerk for not moving from the front of the line at a Disneyland street parade after a huge family cut in front of me and demanded that I move back out of their way? Here's what went down. Okay, so I was at Disneyland one day and I happened to be there for the start of one of their parades. I was riding one of the park's motorized scooters and managed to snag a spot right up to the barrier line that they put up that blocks pedestrians from crossing the road when the parade is about to start, which honestly is pretty laughable if you ask me. I was among the first ones to line up behind it after the announcement about the parade starting soon was broadcasted. It was the perfect timing and perfect spot to be in, right, for front row seats, especially since I was using my scooter as the seat. As people are gathering around and behind me and my scooter to come watch the parade, the crowd coming to watch the parade was getting huge, with little room to move even if they wanted to. But through all of this one rude family comes up to the other side of the barrier to watch the parade, which put them right in the path of the parade and blocked my view along with everybody else's who was standing around me. Luckily, some Disney staff saw what the family had done, and they were immediately ordered to get behind the barrier where they belong with everybody else watching the parade, because they were blocking the parade route by standing where they were. After some grumbling, the family did move, but the jerks tried to demand that I, along with everybody else who had perfect spots right up to the barrier, get out of their way and move back so they could use the spots for themselves. You know, so they and their stupid kids could see the parade up close, instead of everybody else who had gotten to the right side of the barrier line first. Well, everybody and myself all flat out refused to move, and told them flat out to go to the back of the parade line where they belonged, since they cut in front of all of us who had been there way ahead of them before they even showed up. You know, on the wrong side of the barrier. It's not our problem the staff told them to move, nor is it our obligation to get out of their way when they were trying to block our view. Dude, I'm telling you, Disney adults and Disney people in general are some of the most obnoxious, entitled people on planet Earth. And I'm not talking about like the normal fan who's like loves Disney and they love going to Disney World and the amusement park and they're like, oh yeah, this is great. And then they go back home and they live a normal life. I'm talking about people like this who feel they are completely entitled to whatever's in front of them. Because I know for a fact, if I was standing next to you and I was dealing with this as well, oh man, I would be losing my mind. There's no way I would put up with that. Like seriously, this is so rude. So good for you and everybody else around you for standing up for yourselves, because these people deserve to get shut down. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for leaving a bad review after paying nearly $100 for a cake that was quite literally nothing like what I asked for? Here's what happened. So back in February, just before my birthday, I had an idea, because my sister, who's gluten sensitive, probably hasn't had a real birthday cake in years, just the occasional gluten-free pastries. So I decided to go all out this year and order her special cake from a local gluten-free baker that I had seen posting in a Facebook group. Her cakes always looked amazing, and I thought this would be a perfect treat. Since it was February and the cake wouldn't be needed until May, I figured it would give her plenty of time to let me know if she couldn't do it. I spent over $100 on the cake, with charges for fresh fruit and edible glitter. The design I asked for was a vintage heart cake in pastel orange, which was classic with hand-pipe lettering, glittering beneath the letters, and arches of frosting. I sent Emma, not her real name, 3 photos as references. She seemed excited and assured me that she could make it happen. Well, cut to May, and at 11:00 p.m. the night before I was supposed to pick up the cake, I get an email from Emma. She had frosted the cake in the wrong color. She offered a partial refund but didn't send any photos photos of how the cake looked. I thanked her for the offer, but politely mentioned I was a little disappointed it wasn't the orange I had ordered. She then offered to re-ice the cake entirely, which I appreciated. The next day, I rushed home from work while my mom picked up the cake, and when I opened the box, my heart sank. The cake was completely different from what I had ordered. It was wide, flat, and possibly only one layer, nowhere near the height I requested, and the color was a pinkish orange, but it didn't have the edible glitter that I had paid for. It was clearly a home baker situation and not the professional style that I had been told she could do. I was still holding out hope that maybe the taste would make up for the visual disappointment, so I decided to wait until we tried it. But when we did, the cake was incredibly dry, like maybe it was overbaked or something like that, and instead of the promise of fresh fruit, it had literally frozen berries. So I emailed Emma, attached photos comparing the cake I received with the one I had requested, and I told her I wasn't asking for a refund, but wished that she had let me know earlier that she couldn't make the cake that I had asked for, so I could find another baker. Since I didn't hear back from her and I wanted to leave an honest review, I wrote that the cake was dry and didn't match the design that I had requested. But I also stated that it was still good and I wished the business all the best. Well, that's when things really took a turn. Emma replied to my review and I honestly felt my stomach drop. She accused me of altering the photos and said I shouldn't have left a review at all. But for the record, I'm not a photographer. I'm an accountant, and I didn't alter anything. I don't even know how. I thought my review was quite mild considering the situation, but now I'm wondering if I overstepped. What should I do? No, you are not the jerk, bro. There's no way I would have let that slide. The original poster states they paid over $100 to get this crap set up. Like, if I paid that much money, dude, that cake better be perfect. There's no excuse for that. So no, you're not the jerk for leaving a review, and in my opinion, you could have been way harsher about it. Because based on what you described, this Emma lady absolutely deserved it. An entitled Karen tries to apologize for cussing me out not even a few days prior. But after listening to her fake apology, I decided to say that I don't accept her apology and that I hold her responsible for everything that she said. And I've honestly never felt better about putting a Karen in her place in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so this story happened a few years ago. At the time, my store offered 1-hour photo processing, and I was the head photo tech in our lab. This did not make me a manager in any way, but I had just been in the position for years at this point. If no one has ever worked in a photo lab, you should know that we have to deal with a US federal copyright law. If someone tried to print a photo that they did not create themselves, or an image owned by someone else, we cannot legally print it without permission from the owners. The customer that came in had several images of Disney characters that she claimed to have bought off of Etsy. Regardless of where she bought them, Disney characters are a big no-no on the copyright scale. We can't even print those novelty photos you get taken at the park without a release. Now, I tried to refuse her images, but she just starts throwing a fit. Now, I expected as much, as most people have issues when I don't let them have their photos without understanding the rules that we have to follow. Normally, just explaining it to them is enough to get them to calm down, but this customer was cussing and yelling at me and would not calm down regardless of what I did. So eventually, she said the magic words that she wants to speak to a manager. And you know what? That is absolutely fine by me. I call my boss and I tell him what is going on, and he comes to talk to the customer. He explains everything I just explained to the customer again and apologizes to the customer. He says to her that there's nothing that we can do and that we're sorry as it is the law. The customer then leaves and I don't think anything about it. That is until 2 days later when she comes back in. Now, at first she was okay. She came up to the lab, patiently waited her turn, and tried to print the photos again. Well, we had the same runaround, and after calling the same manager again, the customer tried to apologize to me, saying that she really just wanted the photos and that she was sorry for calling me every bad word that she could think of. She said to me, "I apologize. Can we please just put this behind us?" But at this moment, I looked at her and I said, "No, I do not accept your apology. There was no need for you to say any of what you just did." Now, this entitled Karen looked at me very confused. She said to me, "You can't just not accept an apology." But I looked at her square in the eye and I said, "Yes, actually I can. I hold you responsible for what you said, and your words hurt." My manager, then stepping in, said to her, "Ma'am, I think you should probably go home now." And it was honestly so great to watch this Karen get put in her place. Wow, this story is incredible for a few reasons. For starters, you have an amazing manager. This guy had your back pretty much from the get-go. He clearly understands what it's like to deal with entitled Karens who are just raging lunatics, and he had your back even when you said, "No, I don't accept your apology." And even just touching on that moment by itself, like, that seriously takes a lot of guts to sit there and say, "No, I don't accept your apology." And honestly, good for you for taking that stand, by the way. Because this entitled Karen was not apologizing for any good reason. She wasn't saying that because she meant it or because she felt bad. She was only saying that because she was trying to manipulate the situation. She wanted this to be behind her so that she could get her stupid photos printed. That's all that was going on here. Like, literally, that's it. She didn't actually care about how you felt or anything like that. And so when you said, no, I don't accept your apology, honestly, that probably really confused her. Because people who act like this, they're not expecting any kind of like pushback in some kind of way. Like when I worked in customer service, it really kind of baffled me how troublesome like customers think that you can't bite back, especially when they start it. Like, I'm gonna be professional up to a point, but after that, you can basically kiss any kind of politeness goodbye because I'm not gonna give you the time of day at that point. So honestly, good for you for taking a stand and not taking this garbage for a second, because the way you handled this and put this entitled Karen in her place was simply amazing. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amIthejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My mother-in-law blames me because her son doesn't visit her as much. And now I feel like I'm in the crossfire of something that I definitely did not participate in, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a little bit of background, my husband and I have been together for 4 years and married for less than 2 months. We both run our individual businesses and have been very busy in our lives, to the point where we don't even have much time for each other than late night evenings or the occasional afternoon on a weekend. My relationship with my mother-in-law has always been alright. I try to avoid drama at all costs, so whenever we interact, I usually just listen and support her. We have never had direct confrontation up until this point or any conflict. Her son and husband, however, don't have the best relationship with her. My husband, even before getting married, rarely goes home because he's told me that it takes up a lot of mental preparation every time right before he visits her. My father-in-law works 8 months out of the year abroad, and when he is home, he doesn't share a bed with my mother-in-law and spends all his time visiting his sister and his mom. Since we got married in February, I started a new business, and my husband was working on expanding his other business, so we have been on edge and extremely stressed out. Just a few days ago, my mother-in-law reached out to my husband, asking him to come home to celebrate my husband's 31st birthday. Now, we live about an hour away, and because of our busy schedule, he asked his mother if we could meet halfway. Well, she refused, and specifically requested that he must come home, and only then will she decide the time. Now, I'm not sure what got into my husband's head, or if it was due to years of resentment, but he lost his patience on her and became very irritated, and said something along the lines of, okay, then I guess maybe not this time, but we can meet another time. They hung up, and then 5 minutes later, my husband receives a lengthy text message from my mother-in-law blaming me for not letting him go home and how I must really dislike her. Now, this was a huge shock to me because I never had any conflicts with my mother-in-law and was not even involved in the planning of this dinner whatsoever, but it suddenly just fell all on me. I felt terrible and immediately called her even though she didn't pick up, and I ended up leaving a voice note to her apologizing that we care for her and that I always remind my husband to go home, but he's just been caught in chaos these past months. I then also immediately ordered a tea and biscuit gift box with expedited delivery to her with a heartfelt letter, and I did that because I didn't know if showing up uninvited would have been the best thing to do since she was very emotional. Now, my husband clarified to her that I've never done such a thing, and instead I always tell him to visit her more, and when she said that, it's right about then that she went absolutely crazy, calling me a horrible person. Now, I heard nothing back from my end, and the next thing you know, she's deleted and blocked me from every social media. I felt absolutely horrible, but also very frustrated and angry because I don't know what I did wrong, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, first and foremost, I need you to know that basically from my perspective, you didn't do anything wrong. Like quite literally, you did absolutely nothing wrong, and it really seems like your mother-in-law is just looking around desperately to try and blame somebody, and that is just so super toxic. Like she literally is like, oh, you're not gonna come home to visit? It must be your wife's fault. It's like, what are we talking about? She's not even a part of the conversation. Just because your son can't come home, it doesn't mean the wife is somehow scheming in the background. Like that literally is insane. There's no excuse for that. But also, I'm kind of wondering why you apologized to her in the first place. Like, you know for a fact you didn't do anything wrong. So I know if I was in your shoes, there's no way I would ever apologize for something that I definitely didn't do. It would be different if there was some kind of like misunderstanding or something like that, or maybe you said or did something that got misconstrued or something along those lines. Something where she is actually kind of justified in being upset with you in some kind of way. But it legitimately doesn't seem like you've played any role in any of this. And to that end, I just don't think it was a good idea to apologize. And I don't think you did it because you're like rolling over and like kissing her butt or anything like that. Maybe just to try and like keep the peace or something along those lines. But in my opinion, if I was in your shoes, that would only happen this one time and never again. Because personally, I am not in the business of accepting someone else's blame for something that I didn't do. And at least now you know your mother-in-law is going to treat you like this, which in my opinion is completely unacceptable. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. Am I the jerk for getting tired of doing other people's work, all because they would rather talk to their friends or coworkers instead of doing their job? Because right now I feel very exhausted, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have several coworkers, also fellow delivery drivers, who tend to stand around and either be on their phones or talk to people rather than doing the secondary tasks that they're supposed to be doing. An example of this would be from a couple of weeks ago. I came into work in the evening as a short shift, which meant that I had to do the dough prep for the next day. For reference, I work at a pizza joint. The dish table was completely full of dishes, and there were also 2 stacks of dirty pans on the floor that were up to my knee or higher. The other driver that was scheduled to close was nowhere to be seen, and he wasn't out on a delivery run either. So as soon as I clocked in and got my bank for doing deliveries, I went back there and started in on the dishes. For most of my 4-hour shift, I was switching between doing dishes, doing delivery runs, and doing next day's dough prep. And this is just one of many times where this has happened. One of the things we need to do when we're doing dishes is to make sure we're scraping out any remaining food pieces that stick to the sides and the bottom of the pan. For the longest time, the only people that were doing that were one coworker who had worked at the store for about 30 years and myself. Well, back in November, he had to go on leave due to needing emergency eye surgery on his remaining eye, and he had to be gone till recently. That meant that I was the only one scraping out dishes when I was doing them. And again, that's been since November. I've politely asked my coworkers to remember to scrape out the dishes before running them through the dishwasher and to double check them afterwards, but it seems like I wasted my breath with that. There was one night where one of my coworkers, we'll call him Tim, that's not his real name, was on closing shift and doing the dishes. I had politely asked him to please remember to scrape at the dishes, and he said to me, sure thing. He then proceeded to do that with a few dishes. Then he tried to spray the stuck food out with a sink sprayer, but slowly he just started not doing it at all, putting just washed dishes with food still stuck in them on the clean dish stacks. I decided to see how bad this really was with one of the dishes, and in short, I put the same dish back over on the table to be washed 3 different times, and it still had the piece of food stuck in it. I even came back the next day, and I found out the same dish still had the food stuck in it. I got so fed up with doing this for the last 4 months at the time, I stopped scraping out dishes and started doing what everyone else was doing. Now, I've complained multiple times in the last year alone about this problem with not scraping out dishes, and the best answer I got from management was them saying, oh, I'll keep an eye out and I'll watch Tim. And I just think to myself, yeah, sure, but how are you gonna do that when you're up front cutting pizzas and taking care of customers? I'm just so incredibly sick and tired of doing other people's work and them getting away with doing whatever. I've thought about asking for a raise, but I was told that I'd probably get laughed at or told no because I did get a raise at the beginning of the year. So long story short, I'm so tired of doing other people's work, especially when I've got enough work to do on my own. So am I the jerk for thinking this way? What should I do? First of all, you are definitely not the jerk. Like, it really sounds like your coworkers are literally taking advantage of your kindness. And it doesn't sound like your boss is doing anything about that. Like, here you are doing everybody's job, and suddenly you're the one that's getting the short end of the stick because stuff isn't getting done, and you're the only one with like any kind of like workplace integrity. So to that end, I do commend you for actually making an effort at work, but also you definitely should not feel obligated to do other people's jobs. It is not your responsibility to pick up their slack, especially if they're just going to be lazy about it. So in my opinion, I think maybe it's time to just do what you're supposed to do and not pick up anybody else's slack. If your job description does not include taking care of what Tim is or isn't doing, then by all means, let Tim mess up. Like, it really seems like some of these people need to fall on their own sword, and honestly, that is not something that you need to try and save. I would also document every single time you went to your boss and explained why you're upset and why someone else is messing up. That way, if you need to escalate it further, you can be like, well, I did go to you on this day and this day at this time, and you did nothing about it. Because trust me when I say this, I know exactly what you're going through. I've had coworkers in previous jobs who did not carry their weight, so I felt the need to try and pick up their slack so that everything can get done. But personally, once I decided I'm just gonna do my job, and I shouldn't be forced to try and do someone else's job, job, that's when my work really became enjoyable. And those people who were slacking really did get in trouble and were forced to do their job correctly. So maybe that might be a good option for you, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like everyone's taking advantage of your willingness to do their job. And in my opinion, you should absolutely not have to do that for them. An entitled Karen makes my life a living nightmare as we tried to host a banquet for her and her family. And I've honestly never been more blown away by someone's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. So this weekend, I had the weirdest mix of people I experienced so far, and now that I've been able to let that sink in, I figured I would finally share my story. I had a booking for a large party this weekend for almost a year now. Originally, there was supposed to be 60 people, and it was supposed to be on a Sunday. Now, we're a small family-run business, but we're pretty good at banquets like that, and we've built a good reputation. So this was certainly not my first rodeo, but sincerely, none that I would forget. Someone else asked me about a large birthday this Saturday, but the person was already quite sick, so they didn't want to book it immediately, and in the meantime, the party for Sunday moved the date to Saturday. And so we ended up with 2 banquets in one day, one for lunch, one for dinner, and for a bigger restaurant that might seem like not a big deal, but we have very little staff, so we all knew it would be very tough, but we didn't want to disappoint any of those 2 parties. But if only we really knew what was about to go down. Now, the second party, which is the evening birthday one, didn't waste much time picking their menu. The first party, however, had to be reminded like 30 times to please come in and to have a talk about that specifically. The wife showed up like a month prior to the date and told me that she has like 10 minutes. So I'm just thinking like, okay, well, let's just show her what the other party is going to have, as it would probably make it easier for us too. She took the menu home to talk to her husband, agreed on the phone, and asked about the price. Now, this is where everything starts to really go down. Now look, to be completely honest with you, if you ask me, this is not the most intricate menu, but it had something for everyone and was one of the cheapest menus that we offer. But apparently to them, this was not good enough. I mean, they freaked out on us, and I was utterly confused. I don't think you'll get it cheaper anywhere around here, but I figured that they're just a young couple. They probably just don't know. So I explained calmly that there is no cheaper option. Also, they took so long to talk to me. There was no shot they would get a different location for that date, so obviously they were stuck. Now, this Karen called me 11 times that day, which for me is already a big red flag. Also, the guest list shrunk to 40 people, and I think to myself, alright, it is what it is. But then it took her another 2 weeks to let us know that 12 of her guests were children, so that would be free of charge. And it's starting to be like, okay, is this even going to be worth the hassle? But obviously you don't back out on someone so late. So anyways, fast forward, and I talk to them a bit more often, and any given time I talk to either her or her husband, they only show disdain for the whole event. It's so much money for them, they got pressured by family, and the wife explicitly told me multiple times that she wants all of them out as soon as possible. And at this point, this is all starting to sound like a nightmare. The day comes and we're kind of prepped for the worst. I go in for the first round of drinks, and I ask every table if they would like anything else besides water. This idiotic husband then says, "It would be better if you just didn't ask. That way it's gonna be cheaper for us." And at that point, I just look at him in disbelief that he even just said that. This might have been a joke, but with all their complaining about money beforehand, this literally stuck with me. Also, I suspect his guests heard that too, because from like 70% of all of my guests, I got told that no, they're good with water. This made me feel very uncomfortable, but you know what? It's still my job. So I ask if I see an empty jar, but most people don't seem to finish their drink. So I get told, oh no, we're good all the time, and I sincerely start to lose motivation. But I want to make this clear. I still ask and check every now and then, but they just don't order. Instead, they start coming up to the stupid bar and order. And at this point, I tell my coworker they're letting me look really stupid right now. Now, lunch in my book went well, not hers obviously, and I check if there's something to refill, but most people seem to already be done. So I don't order more at the kitchen. Weirdly enough, they asked for more plates, even though I already had like 10 extra. So I just brought more out, even though I had no idea why. Now, it's important to know the wife has been absent almost the entire time. She's been outside smoking with her girlfriends, and the family sits pretty much alone, and the vibe is just getting weird. I then realize the husband is watching sports on his phone, and I think to myself, there's no way. You people sincerely are trash. Then the wife starts to yell at my coworker, how the buffet is empty and is supposed to be refilled all the time. But guess what? That's not how it works. And you know what? I looked around the room, and maybe 2 people are still eating, and it's not even like there's nothing left. But fine, we fill it up just a little bit more, which again, no one eats, dates, and now that jerk is giving me the death stare. And that's if she's even there in the first place, since all of their friends and them stay outside. So I'm just like, whatever. I take care of the folks who remained inside and I prep the cake for the buffet. And I'm doing this because I know that she said she wants it quick. And at this point, I'm completely with her on that. The problem is that they wanted to bring their own cake and no one gave it to me and no one seemed to care to go get it. So it took another hour until they even started eating cake. And now at this point, I'm just completely over it. I figure, you know what, just eat your cake and take your miserable butts home. We've been working for 4 hours and I had the next party arrive in 1 hour. So our time would be better spent getting something to eat ourselves. I definitely admit that I kind of abandoned them after all that garbage. And eventually she storms out and yells to me, saying that she'll get someone to pack her cake at the supermarket. So I just go, yep, go ahead and do that. I would have absolutely given her something if she would have asked me, but that's just ridiculous now. She then proceeds to stay until the next party arrives, which she said she wouldn't do, and especially until I was really busy, just so she could casually walk out and shout that she'll come in and pay tomorrow. I'm like, oh heck no, what in the world are you talking about? So I catch up to her and I let her know that's not cool, but she tells me she's too tired now and she'll come in tomorrow, saying all of this with the sweetest smile. And I know that Karen is up to some evil stuff, and it's all going through my head all night. And to top it all off, she left the leftover food she had me pack up just standing there, and it's really bugging me. Now, in complete contrast, the second party is incredibly great. They're the nicest people you'll ever meet. They're happy and actually incredibly grateful and respectful. And I gotta be honest, it was absolutely jarring. The next day, I meet her husband outside of our restaurant, but they don't come in for hours, and I'm like, what is going on? I leave for my lunch break and I see they're still in the car outside, and those absolute pieces of garbage literally camped outside all the way up until I left to then suddenly complain about me. They complained about me, my coworker, the food, and probably everything else to my dad, who is the boss, as if I didn't provide any service at all. Because apparently all me and my coworker did was stand around giving nobody drinks, and how there was little food and some people didn't even eat it all. But then it's like, what were those extra plates for, lady? She also said that she was outside the entire time crying because the party was so bad. Yeah, that's right, folks. My service was so bad that I made her cry. But obviously that would be followed up by her saying we have to adjust the price. I mean, come on, I thought I've seen it all, but to drop so low is beyond even my imagination. I mean, this party sucked because she told people not to drink, and she wasn't even there most of the time. And her husband watched his phone like an 8-year-old and didn't even want to be here. So how in the world am I supposed to make any of this better? Now, funny enough, their bill was cheap. Like anyone I tell the number to goes, what? That's nothing for 30 people. But to bring this all to an end, the second party gave me the biggest tip I've ever gotten in my life. It was a lot of money. No one would ever tip that amount for even subpar service. So I mean, what are we even talking about here? If at all, my service would have been worse at night because I was tired and very stressed out after that day. So those stupid idiots can get lost. Take your cheap butt somewhere else, because I for sure will never serve you ever again, because I clearly would not want to make you cry. Yeah, that sounds like an absolute nightmare to deal with. And as someone who's worked in customer service, especially in the restaurant industry like this, I would seriously lose my mind, especially with them being like, oh, we'll just pay tomorrow. It's like, no, you're not. Nope, you're gonna pay it right now. Like, that's the part that really drove a nail in why I do not like these people you had to deal with. The rest of it is kind of like, whatever, you're just another customer. But for them to be like, oh no, we're gonna pay tomorrow. It's like, oh no, you're gonna pay right now or I'm gonna go nuts. So hopefully you never have to deal with these people ever again, because they sounded obnoxious, and I would not want to deal with that if I was in your shoes. An entitled nephew tries to scam his uncle out of $800 by photoshopping an invoice that he had for his archery bow. But thankfully, I paid attention enough to know that something was really off, as I exposed this kid for the liar that he is, and brought all of this to light for the uncle to fully understand. And I've honestly never been more disgusted by somebody's entitlement in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so for a bit of context, I work at an archery store, and this story revolved around fixing a broken bow. Now, if you shoot a bow without an arrow, it's called a dry fire, and this is very bad. For a compound bow, the damage can be catastrophic. This surprises a lot of people, which is why dry fires are usually caused by beginners or family members that see the bow and then they play with it. They literally just don't know any better. Well, the uncle of this story did this to his nephew's bow, but luckily the damage wasn't too bad. The only thing that needed replacing was the string, so that's what we quoted the nephew for. He was going to get his uncle to pay for
it, but he figured that while he was getting a new string, he'd also order some new accessories, so he asked us to add them to the quote. He said that he'd pay for them and collect them when the string was ready. Well, when the string arrived, we let him know. The day after, the uncle called trying to pay for it. And to my surprise, he called to pay for the whole order, but there was definitely funnier business going on here. So the uncle called in asking to pay for the invoice. I asked for the invoice number and the uncle gave it to me. He then said it's for $900. I clarified and said, "Oh, you're the nephew's uncle." He said, "Yes, I am. So I'm here to pay the $900. I took a moment and I asked him, "You're paying for the whole invoice? I mean, that's pretty generous." The uncle then said, "Yeah, well, I feel bad, so here's the money." After I took the payment, he asked me to include all the broken pieces when we ship the bow back. I said to him, "Okay, but it's only the string that needs to be replaced." The uncle took a moment and said, "Well, what about the limbs?" I said to him, "We're only replacing the string. Literally nothing else is broken." The uncle then says to me, "But it says right here on the invoice, replace the limbs for $800 and replace the string for $100. So I finally stepped in and I said, "I don't know what you're looking at, but the invoice here says accessories $800 and replacement string $100. Now this guy did not believe me. He said to me, "What are you talking about? That's not right." So I clarified and I said, "No, it's definitely right. I'm looking at the invoice right now." The uncle then thought that maybe he was paying for someone else's invoice, but I said to him, "No, our invoice numbers match. Plus, you confirmed you're the uncle. This is the right invoice." The uncle took a pause, so I kept going. I said to him, "Well, your nephew purchased some accessories as well. That's why I was surprised you wanted to pay for it all." The uncle then said that there are no accessories on his invoice, just replacement limbs and the replacement string. And it was then that he was wondering why his was different. Now, I was a little confused at this as well, but after some silence, I realized what must have happened. I explained to him that I think his nephew photoshopped the invoice. And after a few moments of silence, we both came to that realization. I was honestly disgusted, but the uncle more so. He hung up to berate his nephew, and about an hour later, the nephew called and asked what I told his uncle. I replied by saying, "Your uncle asked me to send the broken limbs back to him, and I told him that we weren't replacing the limbs, and he figured it out from there." Now, his justification for all of this was honestly horrendous. He actually said to me, "Yeah, well, he stopped giving me birthday presents after I turned 18, so I figured that he owed me." And when I heard this, I just could not believe it. This guy thought he was entitled to receive birthday presents to such an extent that he was willing to scam a family member out of $800 just to make up for presents that he didn't get. After that, I called the uncle back and I told him what his nephew said, and honestly, he was not impressed. He then requested that I refund the payment, which I agreed to, after which I withheld fulfilling the invoice until it was paid for again. The next day, the nephew called and he asked me to remove the accessories from the invoice, which I did, and he ended up paying for the string himself. Now, I didn't hear from the uncle again, but considering the nephew ended up paying for the repair, I can only imagine that this guy definitely got his justice. Wow, that nephew is a piece of garbage. Can you imagine being so awful that you scam a family member out of $900? Like, first of all, that is an awful thing to do to somebody you call family. But also, can you imagine being that much of a jerk that you would throw your family member under the bus and try to get them on the hook for almost $1,000? Like, seriously, that is really messed up. Like, I'm really glad the original poster was paying attention to what's going on and had enough common sense to be like, wait a second, something is not adding up. Because what this kid tried to do is seriously uncalled for, and hopefully he got in trouble in the way that he should.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled dad laughed at a crying fast food employee, claiming that nobody wants to work anymore and that she has nothing to complain about. And I'm honestly still blown away by his entitlement to this day. Here's what happened. Okay, so about 2 years ago, my father had surgery to get lung cancer removed. For reference, he smoked for 50 years. I flew in from out of state, and the next day, my mother and I drove to the hospital where he was scheduled for us to pick him up. This was an intense procedure where he had about 10% of one lung removed. 10 minutes out from the hospital, he calls my mom and tells her to pick up McDonald's and bring it to the hospital. A few hours later, he's allowed to leave, and on the drive home, he tells us that he wants to pick up KFC. Now, I'm driving with him in the passenger seat, so I pull up to the drive-thru and they take a while to take our order. When we pull to the window, there's a young teen girl standing there being yelled at by a guy who's similar in age. He screams that he quits and he storms out of the building. And it's right then that she bursts into tears and sobs for a few seconds before coming over to take payments. She informs
informs us while openly crying that it will be a minute because she is alone. As she walks away to get the food, my dad says, "I don't know what she's crying about, but she isn't having as bad of a day as me." He then rants for the next 5 minutes about how no one wants to work anymore and how this service is unacceptable. He continued to rant about that girl and laugh at her over the next few days. Then he had the audacity to tell me a few months later that it seemed like I didn't really want to be there during that visit, and I'm honestly just so blown away by his entitlement. Seriously, it really sounds like your dad is a complete idiot. Like, this guy does not know what he's talking about. Like, why would he make fun of this lady who's clearly doing all of the work in the restaurant by herself? She has no one else to help her out, so she's probably overwhelmed. And he's really gonna sit there and be like, wow, no one wants to work anymore. It's like she does. She's doing the best she can. Literally, the only person helping her quit on the spot. There's not much else you can do about that. Like, that is seriously unfair. And it's also ironic that your dad is like, wow, it's almost like you didn't want to be there when I was mocking that service worker. And like, seriously, of course you didn't want to be there. Your dad was acting insane and treating this lady like garbage. So I truly hope you don't have to deal with your dad in that capacity any longer, because based on what you described, he sounds incredibly miserable.
Am I the jerk for making things uncomfortable during my dad's engagement dinner by exposing him as the cheating jerk that he truly is? Because right now he is calling me a spiteful child, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, my dad is a serial cheater. He cheated on my mom a lot during their marriage, and it came to light after she was diagnosed with brain cancer 5 years ago. My mom found out when she was terminal, and my dad's answer to this was to run away to his affair partner's house, leaving me and my sister to fend for ourselves and take care of mom. He then tried to get his way back in for my mom's last few weeks, and she somewhat gave in for our sakes, because she was worried that we would hate him if she didn't. But then when the end came along, he was with his affair partner. Now, when mom was gone, we refused to live with dad and his affair partner. We told dad that we were not going to let him act like nothing bad happened, and there was no way we wanted his affair partner to be our new mom. We ran away from home to get our way, and CPS got involved and decided that we should live with our maternal grandparents. But our dad was given visitation rights by the courts, so we have to see him one Saturday and one Sunday a month, but not overnight. Dad and his affair partner were on and off for a few years. We found out one of her kids was actually his, and that kid is 6 years old now. She also has an 8-year-old child from a previous relationship, which was right at the same time that she had the 6-year-old. So there's messy stuff on her side too. And honestly, we don't see or interact with them ever. My dad and his affair partner are now engaged, and they wanted an engagement party with family and friends, and dad insisted that we had to be a part of that. It happened on Saturday, and my dad made us use the engagement dinner as our visitation with him, but we tried to fight against it. So we went, but we weren't happy, and during the dinner, dad and his affair partner were talking about how excited they were to bring the family together. His affair partner was saying that she was so excited to officially be our parent and to have us come closer because of it. Now, their immediate families know the score, but not the extended family, and I think their friends mostly knew. They were saying how it was the most wonderful time and stuff like that, and then my sister and I started saying it wasn't for us, and then sarcastically said how we couldn't wait to be a family with my dad's affair partner that he was seeing all throughout my mom's cancer, and that my dad chose to be with her when his wife was dying, thus leaving his daughters alone with their dying mother, because he didn't even call our grandparents to tell them it was her final few hours. We also brought up that he had fathered a 6-year-old during his marriage to my mom. Now, this led to a lot of questions, surprise, and anger, the latter of which was directed at us. My dad and his affair partner were furious that we made the engagement dinner uncomfortable and asked us why we would do that. Well, my sister said that we are not going to pretend that we are happy for them or us. I said they forced us to be there, and we were clear that we didn't want to be, but they said that we behaved like spiteful children. So honestly, are we the jerks in this situation? Because at this point, we're so angry and we just don't know what to do. Okay, I think it's really funny that they say you're being spiteful children, because guess what? You are spiteful children, and with good reason. Your dad was cheating on your mother during her final hours. She has terminal cancer, and this guy's running off with his affair partner. Like, that is so unfair, it's just disgusting. Your dad also made you go to this event, and he basically said, oh, this is gonna be our visitation time. So honestly, any kind of like blowback that he's receiving, especially after you and your sister told the truth, is quite literally his own fault. You didn't do this to him, he did it to himself. And I just don't see a problem with you being upset about this situation. So no, I don't think you're the jerk. I think your dad and his affair partner absolutely had this coming, because the way he's treated this family is completely unacceptable. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would also be incredibly furious.
photos. An entitled couple stop on the side of the highway as I'm walking with my kid around my neighborhood, demanding that I get in their car as it's too unsafe for me to walk around. And I've honestly never been more creeped out by anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so a few months ago, it's cold and it's snowy, and I live in an area where Save the Children has an absolute chokehold on every business and person in town. I live in arguably one of the safest family-friendly areas, and this is especially true since the most recent violence and random crime was probably about 30 years ago. I mean, there are white picket fences, people still leave their doors unlocked. I think you guys get the picture. So I load up my toddler and I decide to go on a walk. We're both stir-crazy, stuck in the house all weekend, and finally there's a break in the weather. As I loop back on our conservative 2-mile walk, this car comes to a flying halt in front of us. For a better picture, we're walking on a bike and walking path that borders the local highway. The entitled couple of this story are literally blocking highway traffic with their car halfway in the shoulder. They then start screaming at me, Hey, what are you doing? Are you okay? I pop out my Bluetooth headphone and I say, yes. They look at me again and say, are you okay? Why are you walking out here? Now, mind you, it's literally 4 o'clock in the afternoon. I chuckle uneasily, worried that a car will rear end them and fly into myself and my child. I say to them, yes, I'm fine. They say to me, are you absolutely sure? I say to them, yes, I'm on a walk. But they respond by saying, oh, it's too cold to walk. Why are you out here? But once again, I say to them, I can assure you that we are fine. Well, this is where it takes a turn. They look at me and say, get in our car. We can take you anywhere you need to go. You'll be safe with us. So I'm supposed to load my kid, my stroller, and myself into their crappy car on the side of an icy, snowy highway just to escape the fantasy boogeyman they think I'm fleeing from. I look at them and I say, I promise you we're all good. But they say to me, there are no houses around here. You and your child are safe with us. And this is all ignoring the fact that my house is literally half a mile away. I then just put my headphones in and I just kept walking. These entitled morons circled me 3 times on the highway, literally going back and forth. And it's truly the most bizarre and delusional interaction I've ever had with people like this. Because my area really obsesses with Save the Children and has no actual grasp on what a sketchy situation like that would actually look like, I can only assume that they thought we escaped some sort of like weird house, or these are just lazy entitled people who don't go outside and are shocked that a younger generation would want their kids to get fresh air. Okay, that is honestly like the craziest thing I think I've heard all day. Who in their right minds would stop on the side of the road and be like, quick, get into our car, you'll be safe with us? Like, that is definitely not gonna happen, and that's when I start running in the opposite direction. Or even like call the police, because that is super sketchy. Like, they're on a highway that's icy on the shoulder, and they're acting like, oh man, I gotta save these people. Like, you can't just do that. That's gonna make you look really creepy. So yeah, I think the situation is super sketchy, and those people who try to get you into their car should be lucky that this wasn't escalated. Because if you wanted to, you absolutely could have called the police on them. And in my opinion, I think that definitely would be justified. Am I the jerk for inviting a clown to my wedding and putting him in our wedding photos with me and my husband? Because right now, my mother-in-law is furious with me for allowing this to happen, despite the fact that me and my husband both agreed that we would enjoy this. And right now, as a result, I feel like I messed up in some way. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 29-year-old female, and I married my 31-year-old husband a few months ago. Neither of us were really interested in spending a boatload of money on a wedding that literally no one would actually enjoy. So we were super casual about it. The wedding was in the party room of a pizza place that we love, and for reference, it's in a recently renovated 19th century factory, so it's really cool looking. We also decided to let our friends and family bring their army of small children because of the pizza. And to entertain the kids, we decided to have a few carnival-themed games, as well as having some snacks available, but also we hired a clown to do some balloon animals. Now, I know this clown. He is a friend of my cousin's who has very good clown credentials. He was great with the kids. We had the bright idea to invite the clown to be in some of our wedding photos as well. Anyhow, I noticed my mother-in-law has been kind of distant since the wedding, but I didn't realize that she was upset with us until she came to dinner last night. We got the wedding photos and picked our favorite, which is the two of us looking at each other dramatically while the clown is standing next to us holding a big fake squeaky hammer like he was about to bonk my husband's head. We got it framed and we put it in the house. When my mother-in-law saw the photo, she just absolutely lost it. She blamed me for embarrassing her and continued to rub it in her face with the clown photos, and that I should have put my foot down and made sure her son had a classy wedding and not have one where clowns put on a show for you. My husband told his mom to leave, but I'm honestly kind of shaken. The feedback from other family and friends has been very positive, and I've had a good relationship with my mother-in-law thus
thus far, so this really was a surprise. I know a lot of people say that the wedding is for the family, not the couple, which is something I took seriously until now, and I'm wondering if I should have considered my mother-in-law's feelings more when putting together the party. So honestly, am I the jerk for bringing a clown to my wedding? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. This wedding, in my opinion, is your business. So if you want to have like a carnival theme and have clowns and all this other stuff, then by all means, go for it. Like, this is a celebration of you and your husband's love. And if this is something that you enjoyed and you feel like it made you and your husband closer together, then forget what your mother-in-law thinks. She's also only upset because she didn't have the wedding that she wanted for her son, which, by the way, your husband agreed to this as well. It's not like you coerced him into doing this and he somehow just kind of gave in. Like, you both said, hey, this would be a lot of fun and we're all good with this. So if anything, your mother-in-law is a complete jerk. She came after you about something that both of you agreed upon. And in my opinion, her attitude towards you and your husband is completely inappropriate. I had one of the worst nights of my life as a server, as a family of 8 stole one of the reservations I had for another group, causing absolute chaos and giving me a massive headache the entire night. And I honestly hope nothing like this ever happens again. Here's what happened. So I work at a local pub, and we're currently experiencing some management issues that reflect our scheduling, and of course results in us being understaffed. Yesterday, I was working alone as I usually do on a Monday evening, and I was told not to have my on-call come in because they were not expecting it to be busy, which honestly was a big mistake. It's a beautiful day out. We just had the total eclipse happen, and many families had the day off for the event. So it was really busy from the get-go. Usually I start turning groups away, especially if they do not have a reservation, because there's only so many people I can serve, even if we have enough tables to seat every single person that walks in. So this man walks in and asks for a table for 8. I asked if he had a reservation, as I had one reserved at 5:45 for 7 people, and this guy decided to lie and take the spot. They sat in the spot reserved for another group that actually did call, and trust me, this created such a mess. And when I confronted the group about it, they just shrugged their shoulders and said that they always get in without a reservation, not even acknowledging that they stole the reservation from somebody else. I didn't kick them out because they had their drinks and I knew my boss would be upset, but it caused such a mess in my service that was already a mess because I was stressed out and alone. The table then proceeds to demand that I prioritize their food because they had kids who were very hungry, but I told them no, and that they had to patiently wait just like everybody else. They then demanded that I do a bunch of modifications for them, such as having the bacon extra crispy and that they have no ice in their water. And this is all when I had literally no time for them and a full restaurant to deal with. Anyways, they split the bill in 2 and they each tipped me $5 on their respectful $85 bills and proceeded to chew me out for being rude to them. Now, let me tell you something. I have never been this angry at a customer before because if anything, I did them a massive favor by letting them stay seated when I easily could have kicked them out. They didn't understand the concept of making a reservation, and nor did they understand that I was completely alone and that their demands were so menial and unnecessary. Moreover, they didn't even take ownership, nor even begin to understand that taking someone else's reservation is not only disrespectful, but also very rude. I wish I could have punched them in the face and really gave them a proper piece of my mind, and it just really reminds me of how much of an awful job serving can be. Honestly, that is so unbelievably toxic. Like, they literally just lied and took that spot, even though they knew that wasn't theirs and they didn't make that reservation. Like, just think about how that family feels who did reserve that spot, and now they have to wait like everybody else just to get a seat. Like, if I went out of my way to reserve a spot for me and my family, only to then roll up at the restaurant and find out that someone else took my spot, like, I would be super upset and I probably would not come back. It also makes me wonder if there was some kind of name on the reservation list or something that you could like double check with. It seems like they heard that there's a 5:45 available and they just said, oh yeah, that's us. Like, wouldn't you ask for a name to like verify that reservation or something like that? So on that end, I think maybe next time ask for a name or something like that, or at least keep a lid on it when it comes to what reservations you do have available, because clearly these people were looking for you to say something because they were ready to jump on that at a moment's notice. And the fact that they were so demanding the entire time and requesting all these specific modifications, that is like so obnoxious, especially because you could have kicked them out of the restaurant, and in my opinion, you probably should have. Like, these people probably ruined the night for a lot of people, including you. So for them to make these weird demands and then tip you this garbage amount, in my opinion, is just super toxic. And hopefully for the sake of you and your restaurant, these people never come back ever again. Am I the jerk for declining to attend my friend's destination
destination wedding, all because I can't afford to go out of the country while also trying to meet my professional and financial goals. Because after I told my friend this, she freaked out on me and is now questioning my friendship with her, claiming that I'm selfish and unsupportive and that I would prioritize material things over our friendship. And now I feel totally lost, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 20-year-old female and I need some advice on a situation that has left me feeling conflicted and unsure if I'm in the wrong. Here's what's happening. My friend, let's call her Sarah, recently announced that she's getting married to her longtime partner, and for the sake of the story, we'll call him Alex. I was thrilled for her and I couldn't wait to celebrate their special day. However, Sarah dropped a bombshell when she revealed that the wedding would be a destination affair, taking place in an exotic location halfway across the world. While I was excited for Sarah and Alex, I knew that attending their destination wedding would be a significant commitment, both financially and in terms of time off of work. As much as I wanted to be there for Sarah on her big day, I had to consider my own circumstances. I've been saving up for a down payment on a house, and the cost of attending the destination wedding would set me back significantly. Additionally, I had already used up most of my vacation days for the year, and I couldn't afford to take more time off of work. I struggled with the decision for weeks, torn between wanting to support Sarah and needing to prioritize my own financial and professional goals. Ultimately, I made the difficult decision to decline the invitation to the destination wedding. I reached out to Sarah personally to explain my decision, emphasizing how much I valued our friendship and how I wished her and Alex all the happiness in the world. I apologized profusely for not being able to attend and offered to celebrate with them in person once they returned from their honeymoon. However, Sarah didn't take my decision well. She accused me of being selfish and unsupportive, claiming that I was prioritizing material possessions over our friendship. She told me that she had expected more from me and that she felt hurt and betrayed by my choice. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, the entitlement of your friend is absolutely astronomical. First of all, she's having a destination wedding, meaning that it's outside of the United States. And I don't know if Sarah knows this or not, but traveling outside the United States is very expensive, and most people just don't have those kinds of funds available. So for her to be like, wow, I can't believe you right now. You're so selfish and unsupportive. Like, dude, what are you talking about? You are being so unreasonable, it's not even funny. Like, she literally is already ostracizing people who can't afford to go to her stupid wedding, but she's also acting entitled in the process as if her wedding's the most important thing in the world. Like, seriously, what is happening right now? This kind of entitlement is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. And if she really was your friend, she would be more understanding that you literally can't afford to go to this stupid wedding. For her to sit there and be like, oh my god, our friendship means nothing. But like, seriously, if you flip this around, look at the way she's acting. She is literally questioning your integrity, all because you can't afford to go to her stupid wedding. Like, that is straight up disgusting, and there is no good excuse for that. Like, this Sarah lady just gives off main character syndrome, like, come on. And honestly, if she's gonna have a destination wedding to begin with, then she has got to expect that some people are just not gonna be able to make it. So no, you are definitely not the jerk. If anything, Sarah is a massive spoiled jerk, especially when she assumes that you don't want to be her friend all because you can't afford to go to her stupid wedding. Because in my opinion, you have not done anything wrong. You made the responsible decision, and you definitely exposed that Sarah is not a good friend. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My entitled Karen of a mother makes a scene at a restaurant, causing problems just for the sake of causing them, and taking out her anger at our server for a $2 upcharge. And I'm honestly just so done with her attitude that at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm about 38 years old and my mother is 65. And in truth, I've lived a much rougher life than she has. I keep hoping that she might grow up and we can have a decent relationship. You know, feel close, feel like she is proud of me, or at least knows who I am. Below is a tiny story, and I solicit your thoughts about it. Generally speaking, I'm interested in your suggestions on dealing with my entitled parents who are allergic to logic, love to punish good people, and feel entitled beyond reason, and they always insist on being in the right. So with that bit of context, here's what's going on. I went to the Cheesecake Factory with my mom to catch up, and as per usual, she makes a request in her order where she wanted to swap some sides for green beans. By the way, absolutely no qualms with the service. In fact, our server had made an extra effort at the bar to make sure my mom's drink was
was correct. My mom had ordered a martini with very specific instructions. When the check comes, my mom is annoyed at a surprise upcharge of about $2 just because she substituted her side. She declares her intention of bringing this up with the manager, or at least with the server. I asked her why, and she said to me, "The Cheesecake Factory is a corporation, and they should make changes if customers are dissatisfied." I told her if she had a problem with the upcharge, she should just take it up with the company and not the employees, who literally have nothing to do with the company policy. I told her there was probably some way to make a comment on the website, and according to our mom, our server was negligent when she did not inform her of the additional charge in the moment, which would have required interrupting my mom too, by the way. I told my mom that if she insisted on reprimanding a server who had been exceptionally attentive at a freaking chain restaurant, I would just leave my card, pay for half, and walk around the mall by myself. Even with mild coercion, protest, maintaining my sanity, and a refusal to be associated with her behavior, I still left and she did it anyways. My mom called me later and we met up. I asked her if she had gotten refunded the $2 for the green beans. She looked flustered and said to me no. So I said to her, "So you wanted to reprimand our server and not get a refund?" Again, she was really flustered and she was fumbling her words. She said to me, "Well, not reprimand exactly." But I stopped her and I said, "Then why did you bring it up?" My mom then said, "Because she should have been knowledgeable about the upcharge and let me know when I ordered." So I said to her, "Great, now she knows. Hopefully she'll do better next time." Now, for reference, my mom has apologized to me once in my life. I took a screenshot of the text just to remember it. When confronted, she plays the victim, and I'm open to thoughts about ways to handle these stupid interactions because we can't talk about anything meaningful ever. As an example, I'm a therapist. When I told my mom about my client's profound, troubling history, her reaction was to ask whether it was part of my job to investigate the authenticity of such a story. And this was insulting to the client who had a giant team that I'd been working with for a year, but also to me because I guess I can't catch a liar. There should honestly be a name for the giant rift between generations where all substance goes. Because when it comes to my mom, I seriously am so flustered. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Wow, the way she treated that server is so unacceptable. She literally only brought this up so she could complain, not because she was trying to get anything fixed or anything like that. She just wanted to give somebody a piece of her mind. Like, that is so disgusting, it's not even funny. Like, at that point, just take the upcharge and move on with your life. It literally was only $2. And here's the thing, that server is not obligated to say that, oh, it's gonna be a $2 upcharge. Like, that is ridiculous in my opinion. That stuff is most likely plastered somewhere in the store or in the menus in general. So honestly, I think your mom is just a massive jerk, and I think if I was in your shoes, I would really limit my interactions with her in public, because clearly she's always looking for a problem. And I know if I was in your place, I would not want to be there when something inevitably goes wrong. My partner of 7 years confessed to cheating right before our wedding, and now I feel like my whole world's been flipped upside down. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. My partner and I have been together for 7 years, reconnecting in college after knowing each other since middle school. We've been living together for about 3 years, and he proposed a little over a year ago, and I was beyond thrilled. We had a wedding date set for this year and plans for starting a family. However, devastatingly, he revealed to me a month ago that he's cheated on me several times during our relationship, with the most recent incident occurring last August. I am heartbroken beyond words. He claims that when he was younger, his father took him to a massage parlor, which confused him because sketchy things happen there, if you know what I mean. He told me he only felt guilty afterwards, and he had to share this with me to avoid bringing lies into our marriage. While I understand he's been through some awful stuff, there is no excuse for cheating. My world has been turned upside down because he was my everything. He was my sweet, supportive, and seemingly perfect person in my life. He supported me through mental breakdowns, through grad school, through career changes, and so much more. He was the guy that opened my car door, bought me flowers for no particular reason, enjoyed spending time with my family. He was always thoughtful, kind, and caring. I always told him that cheating was a deal breaker for me, but now I'm conflicted. How do I even begin to heal from this? I'm angry because he shattered my trust, and our relationship will never be the same now. He has begged for my forgiveness on his hands and knees several times, and has given me a lot of verbal affirmations that he loves me, and the whole "I messed up" speech, even sharing his remorse with his mom, who supported me and told me that I have every right to leave him. He's willing to follow any terms or conditions if I decide to stay, admitting his mistake and regretting hurting me. So is a relationship salvageable after infidelity? How do I recover from this? I mean, should I just move on? I hate the thought of starting over, but staying feels equally daunting. I mean, once a cheater, always a cheater, right? I can say that I'm grateful this came out before we got married, but maybe if we weren't living together, I'd leave him completely. We're currently on speaking terms and cohabitating, but I'm still having moments of intense emotions, like crying or struggling just to get out of bed. He tries to comfort me, acknowledging his mistake and promises to be strong for the both of us, and I admit I considered cheating back, hoping that it would ease my pain, but I couldn't go through with it. I confessed to him and stopped that situation immediately, and he understood my reasons completely. Now, I have to admit, I do hold a lot of contention towards him at times because I do not understand why cheating was ever an option for him. I equally gave him my life and trusted him to the moon and back. Again, I still believe there is no excuse for cheating, but given this awful situation, I seriously feel so lost because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Yeah, there's no way I would ever feel okay about this, like ever. There's no terms of agreement that I could possibly settle on where I would feel comfortable with my significant other, especially after they cheated on me right before we're about to get married. Like, that's insane. There's no good excuse for that. So to that regard, I think you have every right to be upset because your partner literally broke your trust. And in my opinion, I think you definitely need to think things over because this is not okay. Am I the jerk for refusing to pay my share in the family vacation expenses, all because my mom nearly pulled a bait and switch on me, trying to force me to pay for more than I was ready to pay for? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my mom has been planning this vacation overseas. When she first told us about this trip last year, she said that she would pay for all the expenses once we arrive at the destination. She will also be paying for her flights and my sister's flights, and that I would just have to pay for my flights. She and my sister booked for 10 days, while I decided to book for a month. The reason behind this is that my sister has mobility issues, and my mom is nearing her 60s, and there are activities that I want to do that they can't do. And this is stuff like going hiking and other outdoorsy stuff. So I'm going to do all these activities when I'm on my own after the 10 days. Since I'm planning to stay for a month, I'm fully prepared to pay for the rest of my trip, knowing that my mom had promised to pay for my expenses for the 10 days that we are all going together. Now, she's asking me to pay for some of the expenses during the 10 days, specifically the hotel, which is pricey, and I now just don't know what to do. Her argument is that I just got a big promotion a few months ago, and that I should be able to afford it. The thing is, this isn't the only trip that I'm planning this year. Then she argued that I frequently travel on my own, and that I should make sacrifices just once for this family trip. And this is just not true, because I have always been paying for my share in the past family trips. I even willingly paid for some of my sister's expenses, as she is a student and is fully dependent on our mom. Yes, I can't afford it, but it would mean cutting some costs on the solo leg of my trip. Or had I known that I'd end up sharing some of the expenses for this family trip, I wouldn't have booked for a month. So I'm honestly at such a loss, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Before we go any further, the original poster actually gave us an update. Here's what they had to say. First of all, I want to thank everybody for their comments here. I really have learned my lesson to not disclose my finances or my travel plans or anything else related to my spending habits to my mom. My mom and I already have a strained relationship due to her blatant favoritism with my sister. My sister is well aware of this, and she is constantly taking my side, but I really can't fault her for not affording things because of her situation. Now, for reference, I have always paid for my share in past family vacations. I even paid for some of my sister's expenses, and I had no problems with it because it was my decision to do so, which is why I was really excited when my mom offered to pay for all my expenses on this one, but it sucks that it's not actually happening. Now, to those asking, she didn't have any sudden financial crisis. I think the reason why my mom suddenly wants to go back on her word is because she didn't plan this trip very well. For the past months, I kept telling her to book things way in advance just to get the best prices, but she just ignored that, and now the hotel rates are pricier than what she wanted to pay. My mom is well off, but it's just that she didn't expect to pay as much due to her poor planning. I have been offering to plan the trip a few months ago, but she kept saying that it was too early to plan and refuses to talk to me about it, and I really can't reserve anything without her approval. So that was that. Anyways, it's too late for me to cancel my flight, and I'm already out $800. I can rebook it for $75 plus the cost of fare differences and travel solo, but if I'm not going, my sister won't be going either. So with my sister taking my side on this one, my mom has
was already booked and paid for the hotel, choosing a more affordable yet still decent option. While she did promise to pay for all my expenses at the destination, I'm just going to assume that isn't happening and be prepared to pay for myself, namely for food, local transportation, any tours or activities, basically everything. And trust me when I say this will probably be the last time I join my family for any kind of trip. Wow, it really seemed like your mom was trying to pull like a bait and switch on you, where she says she's gonna pay for your stuff, but then turns around and pretends like, oh yeah, you're gonna help pay for this, right? You had a really big raise, you can afford it. It's like, what are you talking about? That is not what I planned for at all. Like, that really is kind of a scumbag move to make, and I really don't blame the original poster for being like, yeah, I'm never doing this again. So good for you for getting this worked out, and at least now you know exactly how your mom's gonna act, because I know if I was in your shoes, I would never want to be involved in any kind of trip with them ever again. An entitled Karen makes a scene at a doctor's office, going absolutely ballistic on the front desk worker, screaming at them that they're tired of waiting around to see the doctor. And I'm honestly still laughing and completely blown away by this Karen's entitlement, and I hope I never see her ever again. Here's what happened. Okay, so I stroll into my ear, nose, and throat office, and I'm greeted by a kind desk worker, and I very quickly do my check-in like a normal human being. I'm told they are a bit busy today, and just to be patient. And I think to myself, no problem, I totally get it. Well, an entitled Karen emerges from one of the exam rooms like a slug out of a damp cave and barges right up to the desk worker. And I think to myself in my head, oh god, here we go again. This entitled Karen begins to berate the desk worker about how long she's been waiting, how the desk worker should have called her earlier if the doctor was running behind, how she has no time and she has a lot of things to do, and that she is very important. The desk worker deflects with verbal jujitsu like a seasoned pro, and I'm laughing in my head as this entitled Karen is huffing and puffing, looking around the room at the people around her trying to gain some kind of sympathy. I keep my eyes pointed directly at my phone, listening and just laughing in my head. The Karen huffs and puffs some more, muttering about service under her breath, and eventually she sulks in the corner like a pile of wet laundry. A few minutes later, the kind desk lady calls my name, and the look on this entitled Karen's face was utterly flabbergasted, like it was impossible that the polite person who wasn't complaining and moaning was treated better than a whiny, sweaty Karen like her. I smiled on my way in and on my way out. The desk lady and I had a laugh about all the crazy people she deals with on a daily basis, and honestly, all I've got to say is that we need to protect these kind desk ladies at all cost. Yeah, I know exactly what the desk lady's gone through, as well as the original poster. It is not only awful to be on the receiving end of somebody's like irate anger, but it's also incredibly awkward, and the secondhand embarrassment is through the roof when a Karen or anybody else makes a scene over having to wait for something that they need to get done. Like, in my opinion, if you're going to a doctor's office of some kind, you not only need to be there on time, but you also just have to expect to be there for 2 hours. I know no one likes to wait in line and we don't like to wait for stuff, but these doctors are really busy, and most of the time it's not even their fault that they're behind. It's the people ahead of you who are probably taking forever. So good for you for getting a good laugh about it, and honestly, I agree with you 100%. We need to protect these kind desk ladies at all cost, because truly, at doctors' offices, they're the people that keep things running. My managers and coworkers are constantly nitpicking my performance, giving me unnecessary passive-aggressive comments that literally are just making me angry, and at this point, I'm so frustrated that I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I want to start off by saying that it's just the little things that coworkers or managers say that honestly grind my gears. Like, why are you asking me if I saw my table get sad when I'm already making their drinks? Like, seriously, stop. I understand that they may be trying to help, but it comes off as condescending, and as if they think I'm not capable of watching my section. Plus, if they have time to sit around and watch me, why didn't they see that I was greeting that table and getting their drink orders? Or if the table says they need a few minutes, someone will come up to me and be like, they haven't gotten their drinks yet. And I'm like, yeah, I know. They literally told me they needed a few minutes. Like, just go away and mind your own business. If I saw a table sit in someone else's section, that's their business. Now, if that server is nowhere to be found, and I see that the table is still empty after about 5 to 10 minutes, I would ask the table themselves if they've been helped. And if they haven't, then I would get their drink order and find their server. I don't understand all the babysitting. Or the bartender will be saying, oh, you gotta punch your tickets, when I literally still have the drinks in my hands and I'm still putting them on the tray. Obviously, I can't simultaneously punch the ticket while my hands are full. I'll load my tray, verify that everything is there, mostly because they're always forgetting stuff, and then I'm gonna grab it. Like, I really don't need the passive-aggressive comments comments. Or here's my favorite one. The manager asking me, why does your table look like that? And they would ask that all because there were 3 empty plates. Like, what is going on? If you had time to watch me, then you should have seen that I just left the table with my hands full of their other empty plates. Sorry, I can't carry all of a 5 Tops dishes with appetizers and extra plates in one trip. Like, seriously, why do they sit there and nitpick everything that I do? If you're so concerned, then go help pre-bus my table. And all of this is after they had just spent a day telling me to pre-bus other people's tables, yet I don't see anyone pre-busing mine, just complaining when it's not done when they want it done. Honestly, I wish people would watch their own tables and stop trying to babysit me, because seriously, this is getting very annoying. Oh man, I totally relate with this on a personal level, because I can't stand when people nitpick my work unnecessarily. Like, it's one thing if I'm doing something wrong, or if they're training me on something new and I haven't quite caught on yet. Then in that case, then sure, go ahead and nitpick me, I totally understand. But for them to sit there and be like, oh yeah, you're doing it wrong, you need to punch your tickets, oh by the way, why does your table look like that? Like, if you've had no complaints before about not getting your stuff done, then literally they're just being busybodies going after you for no good reason. So truly, I completely sympathize with what you're going through, because trust me, I've been through that several times myself. And hopefully with some time, they can learn to mind their own business and try to focus on themselves. An entitled angry FedEx driver freaks out and yells at my movers who are moving me into my new house as they were blocking the street and preventing him from going on his way. Things got so bad that there was nearly a fight between the FedEx driver and my crew who was moving me in, and I've honestly never been more frustrated with anybody in my life. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm moving into a home in a newly built community. We're the first home in the cul-de-sac, and the street is busy on move-in day. I've got contractors working on a new fence, my moving truck is just showing up, and by coincidence, my neighbor across the street is also moving in, and his truck arrived at the same time. The movers have the street totally blocked off, but they're taking turns moving to let people through when needed, and then moving back to where they're unloading. Well, there's a FedEx truck with an entitled driver inside of it. He gets past the trucks into the back of the cul-de-sac, makes the delivery, and then comes back to leave, but he is blocked by the trucks. Now, I'm in my house talking to my movers so they know where stuff goes, and it's then that I hear a fight going on outside. I can hear the entitled FedEx driver screaming and cursing at everyone outside. He's yelling at the movers, the fence guys, my wife. The fencing guys offer to move their truck and let him out, and this guy starts screaming out more swear words. So the fence crew is like, cool, we're not gonna move now, and I guess you gotta wait. And they're starting to get really heated because of how this guy is talking in front of my wife. And make no mistake, if this FedEx guy wants to pick a fight with these guys, he is definitely going into a hole. The crew lead from the other moving crew comes out to try and settle things. He's this big guy leading in real smooth and apologetic. He says to him, hey man, I'm sorry, I'll move my truck as soon as I pick up this ramp. Well, this entitled jerk not only yells out some awful swear words, but he also makes some really racist remarks, all while screaming that we need to get out of the street. Well, this lead then loses it, with his crew holding him back while he starts yelling. My crew is just watching from inside, watching all of this go down. They say, should we go down and try to solve this? And at one point, this entitled FedEx driver is pouting in his truck, blocking my movers in the driveway. I said to him, no, I'll just call the police and I'll let them sort it out. This guy isn't going anywhere. But before I could call, the other moving crew lead calms down enough to move his truck, and the FedEx guy peels out, almost hitting the fence truck. My poor neighbor is just standing there embarrassed. They say to me, yeah, that's awkward. I work for FedEx Corporate. Well, apparently, the entitled driver apparently works as an independent contractor running FedEx routes, because he has been back almost every single day delivering heavy furniture to all the new homes on the block. And the next day, he couldn't park directly in front of his target house because my fencing guys were back, and they just stared at him while he shot them nasty looks and mumbled under his breath as he wrangled what must have been a bedroom set down the street to whomever ordered it. Now, I've got some large deliveries coming myself in the next few days, and if I answer the door for him, I'm gonna ask him if he intends on apologizing to my wife for the way that he spoke to her. I doubt I'll get anything from him because entitled jerks like this only have so much respect they can give. So it really seems like there's fun and drama on day one in my new house. Wow, that's really surprising of that FedEx driver. Who in their right mind would not welcome a little bit of a break from the chaos? Like, delivery truck drivers have an awful job sometimes. They are very rarely appreciated for their hard work, and most times people are upset because their stuff isn't there right when they want it. Like, if I saw 2 trucks blocking the road, I would happily park my truck and be like, yeah man, take your time. I'll happily wait and take a breather until you get your truck moved. Like, maybe it's just me, but I would happily welcome the break from the monotony. So yeah, the way that guy acted was so uncalled for, and I absolutely think you should confront him if he comes to your house, because the way he talked to your wife is unacceptable, and if I was in your shoes, I would not take that for another second.
If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
Am I the jerk for not siding with my fiance after my parents wanted to invite 8 additional people to our wedding? Because right now, my fiance is putting his foot down and saying no. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my fiance and I are getting married in September. Originally, we wanted to have a reception with 85 people there, but the venue I really wanted stated that we had to invite 100 people. So we went ahead with the venue that I wanted and invited 100 people. After the invitations had been sent out, my parents were upset to find out that we did not invite 4 of their closest friends and their spouses, but they thought that it would not be a big deal to ask us to invite 8 more people. Now, my parents are the extremely generous type, and I am very spoiled. For this wedding alone, they've brought forward $10,000, which by the way pays for more than half the wedding, and my mom paid for my wedding dress. And their generosity goes beyond what they have paid for the wedding. They helped me get through university debt-free, they paid for a portion of my house down payment, they helped me buy a new car, and have just all around been there for me emotionally. And for all this, I want to invite these guests to make them happy, as it would make me happy, and I want to show them that I appreciate all that they've done for me, which would be a lot easier than paying them back. Now, my fiance does not share this opinion and insists that this wedding cannot go above 100 people. He agreed to inviting them after the RSVP date, provided space became available, but I really think that most guests that were invited will say yes. I explained to him that I want to show my parents my appreciation for all they've done for me, but he states he will sooner give them their money back than invite these 8 guests. We have had several arguments and I've shed many tears over the issue, but he will not budge. He thinks my parents are jerks because of the last-minute attempt to change our guest list, and I think he's being a jerk for being unreasonably stubborn, and perhaps I am the jerk for not taking his side on all of this, because after all, it was me who wanted the bigger venue. Now, my parents are not these filthy rich people or anything like that. They are hardworking, self-made people who continue to work and save to get where they are today. Growing up, we were actually lower middle class, and my parents have only recently found success. They do not go on trips or treat themselves. They just want me and my siblings to be happy. My fiance, on the other hand, grew up much more well off than me, all the way up until his parents decided to go through the world's messiest divorce. Now, when the list was 85 people, the invite list was lopsided in my direction as I have a huge family. All of the 15 extra people are from his side of the family, so there are 46 people coming from his side and 54 on my side. My parents and my fiance have gotten along very well up until this point. My parents love him and he loves them, and we were a happy family before all of this garbage. He still tells me that he loves my family, but right now we are having an argument. So honestly, am I in the wrong in this situation? What should I do? So in my opinion, it really seems like your fiance is being very stubborn. Like literally, it's just 8 people. It's not like they're adding like 50 new people onto the list. Like it really is a small handful of people, and it doesn't seem like there's going to be any more people added to the list after that. Like this is just like last minute people that didn't get invited the first time around. So it makes me question why your fiance is so adamant that 8 people aren't allowed to show up to the wedding. Like that's really weird to me, and I just don't think that's something that really you should be so stubborn on. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Your fiance's acting weird, and in my opinion, I absolutely think those 8 people should be invited. Am I the jerk for naming my son after my father instead of my father-in-law? Because right now my father-in-law is freaking out, and he is furious that we chose my father over him. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently had twins with my husband. I love my baby so much, but the labor was a nightmare for me. It was extremely traumatic for my husband and I, and we've agreed that we are definitely not having any more kids. I was laboring for 2 days, and throughout the process, we kept our families updated. When they were finally able to visit, my parents and my in-laws came to see me. Everyone was fussing over the babies, and my poor husband, who only had about 4 hours of sleep for the whole 2 days, was napping. My dad, however, sat by me first and just held my hand for just a little bit. When I told him to go get some cuddles in with the twins, he said that I'm here to see my baby, meaning me. It was honestly so sweet, and I started tearing up. I didn't even realize how invisible I felt when my husband was sleeping, and my dad was there to make sure I was also being taken care of. He took me down to the hospital cafe, and we had breakfast together while the babies were with everyone else. I kept thinking about what my dad did for the next few days, and I decided decided that I would give my newborn son my father's name as his middle name. Now, my husband was totally on board with this. However, this is where the problems began. We knew my father-in-law would be pretty upset about this. He always wanted a grandson named after him, but it's pretty clear now that he won't get one. He has 2 sons, my husband and his younger brother, and my brother-in-law is gay and currently says he doesn't want to adopt kids in the future. My father-in-law is also one of those people who cares about bloodlines, so I don't think he'd want an adopted grandson after him. And trust me, I know how messed up that is. My husband has a very complicated relationship with his father, so he wasn't comfortable naming our son after him, but we agreed to give them the same initials, and he accepted this. But when he found out we were switching the middle name to my father, he lost his mind. He said that this was something he always wanted, and we were throwing it in his face by giving the baby my father's name as his middle name. I tried to explain why, but he cut me off and said that it was absurd to expect someone to check on me when there were babies that had just been born, and my father shouldn't be rewarded for ignoring his grandchildren. I tried to explain that it was more than just the moment, because my dad has been my best friend for my entire life, but he just didn't want to hear it. My mother-in-law is now saying that we're jerks for doing this because my dad doesn't care about any grandchildren being named after him, but my father-in-law has always wanted it. According to her, we are taking something away from him just because my dad chose to do something unusual, which to them was ignore the babies until he was satisfied with me being okay. And for the record, he did not ignore the kids. He got plenty of time when he got back from breakfast. Now, my dad is honored by our choice, but thinks that we shouldn't have done it because of what it means to my father-in-law. So honestly, are we in the wrong for what we did? Because honestly, at this point, I really don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. Your father-in-law is freaking out over something so petty. Like seriously, who in their right mind is this obsessed about bloodlines and names? Maybe it's just me and the way I grew up, but that stuff is so archaic in my opinion that it just does not hold up. So the way he's acting to me seems really strange. Like he's not only being selfish in this decision, but he's also acting like you owe him something. And if your father-in-law really wanted a baby named after him so badly, he could have given his own name to one of his kids. Like this is such a dumb argument in my opinion, and it is just so toxic that he's making this into such a big deal. In my opinion, this is your baby, so you get to choose exactly what you want to name it. And anyone else who wants to stick their nose in your business, in my opinion, has no right or even a say in the matter. My entitled manager micromanages every aspect of my job, demanding constant updates to everything that I do, while also demanding that he's included in all of my emails that I send out. So I decided to maliciously comply by including him literally in every email I send throughout the day, resulting in him getting his inbox flooded and me finally getting some kind of break from his weird oversight. Here's what happened. A little over a year ago, I found myself stepping into the role of senior project manager for a long-standing client I'd been managing for quite some time. The transition into this new position seemed promising until I began to realize the management style of my new boss, someone with whom I had never interacted during my previous role, and it quickly became apparent that he had a penchant for micromanagement. One instance that stands out vividly is when he questioned me via Slack about why he hadn't been invited to an internal team call. I explained my reasoning, assuring him that I had everything under control and his input wasn't necessary for this particular decision. However, his micromanagement tendencies didn't end there. He began requesting updates on my lunch breaks, expecting notifications when I stepped away and returned, despite my Slack status indicating my availability. Furthermore, he insisted on being informed of my daily login and logout times, regardless of his own online status. He even wanted me to outline my daily tasks within my outline calendar hour by hour. The situation escalated when he expressed discontent over not being included in client communication emails, despite receiving comprehensive updates during our weekly catch-up meetings. Despite my efforts to keep him informed through detailed reports and follow-up emails, he insisted that he will be included in every single correspondence, citing transparency as his primary concern. I started to feel that I wasn't trusted and started to doubt my ability within my role. I battled with myself and wondered what I was doing so wrong. So I thought to myself, okay, I guess it's time to maliciously comply. So you want to be included into every single email? Fine, that's exactly what you're gonna get. And I began doing just that, whether it was directly relevant to our projects or not. From routine communications with colleagues to mundane requests for IT support or office supplies. His inbox soon overflowed with 20 to 30 pointless emails every single day. Now, remarkably, not a single complaint about transparency surfaced thereafter, only complaints about getting too many emails. It seems that inundating him with every conceivable email served as the perfect solution solution to his insatiable desire for oversight. And I honestly never felt better about maliciously complying in my life. Yeah, I gotta be honest with you, anyone who micromanages their employees is honestly a terrible person. And I don't say that lightly. Like, it's one thing if your employee is just not doing their job, and you definitely need to be there to try and question and make sure they're doing it right. But if you have a competent employee who does know what they're doing, and you're still coming at them and being like, oh yeah, I need daily updates on everything that you're doing. I want to be included in all your emails, please. Like, that's obnoxious, and you are not a good manager if you do that. You're only going to irritate people who really do know what they're doing, and it's going to cause people to want to quit their job. So I love the way that the original poster handled this, because they basically said, okay, you're getting every email I get, whether you like it or not. And in my opinion, if someone wants to micromanage, then it's time to do exactly what the original poster did and overwhelm them until they stop. Am I the jerk for asking a neighbor to keep his dog out of my yard, as he constantly lets his dog go to the bathroom in the same yard that my kids play in? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I lived in my house for 10 years, and when we bought it, it was a corner lot off a major neighborhood street. It had a grass yard with no fence, and due to my grass yard, I would regularly see dog owners use it as a bathroom. Most people would clean it up, and some would not. But either way, I thought it was rude. The year I had my first kid in 2019, I put up a small fence that only goes up about 8 to 10 inches, and it was significantly more cost effective to do this than build one that is 3 to 4 feet high, because I just wanted a barrier to keep my young kids in my yard. And on top of that, I think the look my house has is much better with a shorter fence. Now, I have a 4 and 2-year-old that play in the front yard nearly every day, and I recently started noticing via my Ring camera that a guy is letting his dog into my yard and letting it go to the bathroom. In fact, this morning I went outside to clean up some toys that were left out, and that very guy had his golden retriever in my yard over the fence. I said to him, hey, get off of my property. And he said that he was just passing by to let his dog go through the grass since I have such a nice yard. Well, I told him not to ignore the fence, and I have on video his dog going to the bathroom in my yard. And he just says, yeah, well, you also have on video of me picking it up. I told him I didn't want his dog going to the bathroom in my yard ever again. I stated that my kids play in the yard, and I asked him again to get his stupid dog out of my yard, which at this point he still had not done. He says I'm not very neighborly, and that without a park in the neighborhood, my yard is the next best option. And when he told me that, I told him to get the heck out of here. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because right now I am very frustrated, and at this point I really don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. You said it yourself. You have kids that play in that yard, and that guy's a moron if he's gonna sit there and be like, oh yeah, your house is the next best thing. We don't have a park in this neighborhood. Sorry. I'm just gonna let my dog go to the bathroom in your yard. Sorry about that. Like, this is some absurd kind of entitlement that seriously is uncalled for. And here's the thing, even though you do clean up after your dog, it doesn't mean that there's not still like stuff left over, if you know what I mean. And I bet your kids are running around and rolling in the grass, so you can bet all of that's getting on their clothing. Like, that is so uncalled for and so disgusting. Like, any normal neighbor who wants to be neighborly, by the way, would have been apologetic instead of doubling down. Like, this guy's trying to act like you're not a good neighbor. Meanwhile, he's letting his dog go to the bathroom on your yard. Like, that's highly inappropriate, and seriously, I would not take that for a second. And I think if I was in your shoes, the next time he shows up, I would definitely have him trespassed by the police. Like, the fence alone should be a dead giveaway that you are not welcome in the yard. And now that you have extra proof against him, if he does ever try to come back with his stupid dog, you will have more than enough evidence to try and get him in trouble. Am I the jerk for supposedly lying to my sister after I got a boyfriend, as my sister thinks that I tricked her when I started dating my current boyfriend? Because right now my sister is very upset, and despite me feeling like I didn't do anything wrong, I seriously now am at a loss and I just don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I'm gonna start this by saying I don't think I'm in the wrong, but maybe another perspective could help me out. I'm a 17-year-old female and I don't like makeup. I've tried it before, but I don't like how it looks on me, so I never wear any. However, my sister, who's 19, loves makeup and refuses to leave the house without any on. When we were in school together, my sister would get mad when I got attention from boys and she didn't. Even when I was younger, she would bring up that I don't wear makeup or put much effort into my looks, so it didn't make sense for boys to like me more. Now, I did put effort into my appearance, by the way, just not to the same level as her. And she would always try to get between me and any guy she thought was interested in me, even though most of the guys were just actually friends, and we laughed at her for thinking that they were into me. And this is nothing that I ever minded, because I was never into them either. Well, apparently this embarrassed her, and I guess she still hasn't let it go. But with that bit of context out of the way, here's what's mainly going on. I recently got a boyfriend. He's an old friend and one of the ones that said he wasn't into me a few years ago. Things changed recently and we're pretty happy together. We've only been together for 2 months, so we haven't told that many people, including my sister. Well, she was in town for the weekend visiting from her university, and she happened to arrive when our parents weren't home, and my boyfriend and I were cuddling on the couch watching TV. He noticed her first and said hi, and she looked confused for a minute, then started bawling and running up to her room, slamming the door. Well, that freaked us both out. Apparently, she called our mom when she got into her room because she came home right away. She told us my sister said we humiliated her, but we didn't do anything. And when we told mom what happened, she was just as confused as we were. Well, my mom got my sister to come out of her room, but she was still crying. It took a few minutes for her to calm down, but then she started screeching at me that I was a liar and a brat and that I had humiliated her. Now, when I asked how I did that, since I didn't even talk to her before she started freaking out, she said it was because of my boyfriend. We said before that we didn't like each other, but now it was unfair because we lied to her. I told her we didn't lie, but she could not hold us to something that we said years ago. Feelings sometimes change, but apparently she remembers when we laughed at her for thinking we liked each other back then, and how she got so much backlash from her friends for it, and now we're together so we are humiliating her for nothing. Then she started going on her usual rant of how I don't wear makeup and I don't dress as nice as her, so it's not fair that I have a boyfriend and she doesn't. Well, I told her that she was being delusional and she cannot keep blaming me for her being single. Well, she started to bawl again and ran into her room. Now, my boyfriend and mom are on my side that she's being overdramatic, but my dad thinks that I could have worded things nicer because she spent most of the weekend crying. And honestly, at this point, I don't even know what to do because I seriously do not think that I'm in the wrong. No, you are definitely not the jerk in this story. Like, seriously, your sister is being insane. Like, she's not only incredibly jealous of you and how you get more attention than her, but she's also tried to sabotage pretty much any potential relationship you could have. Like, that sounds absolutely obnoxious and I would not want to deal with that. Like, if I had a sibling who treated me like that and treated me so poorly all the time, I would get super frustrated and say, yeah, I don't like you either. And honestly, who is she to say who you can and can't date? If you want to get back with someone who you didn't initially like, then that is honestly none of her business. Just because you got in a relationship doesn't mean that somehow you're putting down your sister. Like, those two are literally not connected. So truly, I don't think you're the jerk in this scenario. I think your sister is absolutely being overdramatic, and I think your dad is just trying to take your sister's side to try and make her feel better. Because overall, you did nothing wrong, and in my opinion, I think your sister is acting super weird. An entitled angry nerd loses his mind when he goes to GameStop and doesn't get the discount he feels that he deserves, claiming that he's the reason they stay in business and that they're gonna lose a lot of money if they don't comply with his weird demands. But thankfully, in the end, these GameStop employees handle his complaints like a pro, putting him in his place in a way that truly was hilarious. Here's what happened. Okay, so my friend and I decided to stop at a GameStop while we were out of town to look for a certain game. When we got inside, I hopped in line to ask a worker, and my friend started browsing. There were 2 people in front of me looking annoyed, and then there was an entitled nerd at the register taking up the attention of both workers who also looked annoyed. This guy barked at them and said,
I've been coming to this store for years. They've always done it for me.
Now, the manager essentially told him that all GameStops have the same basic rules, and he couldn't just give this guy a discount because it would actually cost him his job. Now, for some context, the entitled nerd was asking for a price match with the same item at Best Buy. However, the one employee rung it up at that price and put the pro member discount on top of it, which, by the way, only took off like $7 extra. Well, the manager told the worker that they can't apply that discount on top of a price match. Well, this entitled angry nerd just went off. He started screaming,
I want to see your paperwork. Show me where it says you can't do that. I've been coming here for years. You're going to lose all your business if you don't give me at my price.
I mean, the dude literally turned red in the face yelling at these guys. The manager walks off and returns with some papers. He stands there and reads through the papers and then just smiles. Oh, actually, not only can I not apply a discount to a price match, we are not even allowed to price match at all at this location. Oh no. He then proceeds to hand the papers over to the angry nerd, who is hemming and hawing and steaming from the ears. The workers help the line that has piled up, while the angry nerd reads over the papers multiple times and realizes he's not going to get the thing he wanted unless he pays full price. So, in the end,
end, the thing he wanted would have cost him well over $200 instead of $170, all because he wanted it for $163. And I've honestly never been more satisfied watching someone self-sabotage in my life. Wow, this guy really tried to act like a big shot at this GameStop. Like seriously, the way he was acting was completely out of line. He not only tried to claim that he gives all these people so much business, but he also really tried to be like,
Oh yeah, you're gonna lose all your business if you don't have me.
it's like, dude, what are you talking about? Your first mistake is that you shop at GameStop, but your second mistake is pretending like you are anybody to them. Because as somebody who's worked customer service in their life, I can guarantee you those workers are not thinking, oh no, the fact that he's leaving means that we're gonna have to shut down. They're probably thinking, oh good, he's gonna leave. I really hope I don't have to deal with him again. So honestly, good job to the GameStop employees. They handled that perfectly because I seriously don't think anything would have stopped that guy from screaming at them unless they gave him cold hard facts. Because in the end, that's exactly what this guy needed just to shut up. And if he had just kept his mouth shut, he could have had some kind of discount for his item instead of inevitably needing to pay full price. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories.
My entitled mom constantly finds a way to blame me for everything wrong in my life or in her life. And I'm honestly so sick of the way she treats me and all the gaslighting and complaints I have to endure at her expense. Here's what happened. Okay, so I have so many stories that I could tell on this subject because honestly, if something goes wrong, my mom thinks that I'm an evil person who causes everything that happens in my life or in her life. I'll tell you one story when my dog got injured as a puppy, and as a note, he is 100% fine now and he's living his best life. But when my dog was about 4 months old, he was jumping around for a treat but landed awkwardly. It was literally a complete accident. As soon as he landed, I knew something was wrong and I took him to the vet. It turns out he had a tibial tuberosity avulsion, which is a common break in young dogs and requires surgery. Now, this was before I was no contact with my mom, so I kept her informed and she heard how worried and upset I was. Luckily, my dog was able to have a couple of pins placed and recovered really quickly, but the surgeon told me that there was a small chance he could need a second surgery if the pins happened to displace as the leg grew. Well, fast forward 1 year, and suddenly we can tell his leg hurts once again. He won't even put weight on it. I call my mom and she immediately launches into a tirade that I did something to him, I'm treating him awfully, and that I'm constantly forcing him to run around too much. She said that I force him to exercise when he doesn't want to, and that this is all 100% my fault, and that now I had ruined his leg and his life. This was incredibly upsetting and very cruel to me. I had just called her because I was worried about my dog, and she knew the original situation, but in reality, this was just the pin displacement as the leg grew. The vet removed the pins and it was no longer a big deal. He was back to normal almost immediately. Fast forward another few months, and the topic of my dog's leg comes up in a conversation with my mom. She insists that I called her and told her that I mistreated my dog by running him too much, and that she had spent so much of her time talking me out of that mental space, and that she's such a good person for supporting me through such negative thoughts. And when she said that, honestly, I was blown away. And you know what? This is just one example, but she will always twist every story and gaslight so that she is the complete victim and I'm the one causing the problem. And honestly, after dealing with this for so long, I'm seriously so done with my entitled mom. Okay, your mom sounds insane. Like she is literally trying to gaslight you and change history. So first she's gonna be like, oh yeah, this is all your fault. And then fast forward a few months and be like, oh yeah, I helped you through that situation. I'm such a good mother. Like, no, you're not. You're insane. Like, who in their right mind would act like that? So truly, I think it makes sense as to why you went no contact with your mom, because based on the way she acts, it sounds like this is a constant issue. So to that end, I don't blame you for stepping away.
Am I the jerk for essentially tossing my housemates' food away, all because they kept using a portion of my fridge? Because right now they are very angry with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I live in a rented house split 3 ways. I did not know my roommates before meeting them, and all was decided by the landlord. When I first came in, I was informed that specific cabinets and fridge spaces belong to certain people. For example, the left side cabin belongs to the renter assigned as number 1, the middle was assigned as number 2, and the third was assigned as number 3, and so on. This was told to me by the landlord, it was on my contract, and the 2 housemates seemed to uphold this rule since when I first came in, the right side cabinet and the bottom fridge was stated to be mine. I was strictly told to not impede or use the items of others, and honestly, all was well. In fact, I like this rule very
much. The problem came when I did some minor grocery shopping and saw some stuff that definitely wasn't mine in my section of the fridge. There was an almond milk carton and some chicken. Now, I was a little annoyed, but I texted the group chat to ask who it belonged to and why it was in my section. Housemate number 1, we will call Leah, said that it wasn't hers, and it was confirmed when housemate number 2, who we will call Cheryl, said that it was hers and just needed temporary space because her section was full. Now, I was a little annoyed, and I texted that I would have appreciated her asking me first, but I get that she just needed temporary space. I asked her to please come move her stuff or at least let me squeeze into her section because I just picked up my own groceries. Well, she refused and said that she was too busy, that she already tried to squeeze it in. I replied that I'm moving her stuff out of my section because I can't let my stuff rot. I then asked Leah in the chat if she would mind me putting Cheryl's stuff with hers, and Leah said no, and I respected it. I left her carton and her chicken plate on the counter, and I put my groceries in and went about my day. Well, problems came to a head when Cheryl asked to speak with me in the living room. She basically went off on me for tossing her food away because the chicken and the milk weren't good or safe anymore after being left out. I said, I'm sorry, but that was my space in the fridge. Then Cheryl asked me to compensate, but I refused. She said that she'd get the landlord involved for touching other people's items, and I got a little hot-headed when she said that, and said that I'll just get at her for using other people's space. Leah yelled at us to shut up, and that we're both just being childish, and that threatening the landlord is a low blow. So honestly, am I the jerk in this scenario? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk. Your roommate overstepped their boundaries and tried to push you around, and basically try to break one of the rules in your contract as tenants. Like, she broke the rules, not you. And to top it all off, you just bought groceries. Like, it's not fair for you to be stuck with no space in the fridge, all because your roommate wants to be selfish. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, and I think your roommate was completely out of line. Am I the jerk for telling my sister-in-law that her family can't stay at my beach house any longer, even though they helped build it? Because after receiving several complaints, as well as seeing evidence of their entitlement towards my property, I am very upset with her, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm 31 years old and my husband is 38, and we live about 3 hours away from my sister-in-law's family. Her family consists of her husband, and her 2 kids. A few years ago, my husband and I bought a really rundown property on the coast, and this place was a couple of hours from where we live. I wanted to make a project of fixing it up, and my husband liked the idea and was happy to support it, but it was mostly my project. I really put a lot of effort into fixing it as cheaply as possible. I went over and stayed there for many nights and literally did a lot of construction, with my husband coming and helping about half the time. I sourced recycled wood and such, so almost all the materials are found in some way. Once it was partially finished, I thought I could enlist my sister-in-law's help, so I told her about this project and asked if she wanted to come stay over for a few days with her family and help me finish up the work. She brought her kids and husband and slept out on the deck and did things like painting and building some furniture. When it was finished, it was really beautiful. We started renting it as an Airbnb and have had some good success with it so far. Now, I did say that my sister-in-law's family could come stay anytime because they help with it. There is 2 parts to the house that have separate kitchens and bathrooms, so we've tried to keep the top for us and my sister-in-law's family and the bottom for the Airbnb. Well, last week they were there at the same time as some paid guests. I got a complaint from the guest afterwards that my sister-in-law's kids had made fun of their kids and that my sister-in-law told them that this was their house, so guests don't get to dictate how their kids behave. I then decided to ask my sister-in-law about this, and she said their kids wanted to play with the guest kids on the beach, and the guest kids tried to ask her kids to leave them alone, but they wouldn't. They were playing volleyball and her kids were much better, and according to her, she was rightfully proud of it. Well, I got really upset, and I told her she wasn't allowed to stay there anymore if she can't be considerate of the fact that this is also a business, and you can't just be a jerk to customers or anybody. Well, now she's saying that I'm a jerk because I promised she could stay there anytime. So honestly, am I in the wrong here? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I'm not sure which direction to go. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think your sister-in-law is taking advantage of this beach house, and she's now under this weird assumption that she can just do whatever she wants and that there won't be any consequences. But here's the thing, if you're gonna act like a moron and disrupt a business that you are running, then guess what? They've gotta go. They are literally affecting your bottom line, and in my opinion, that is unacceptable. There is no good excuse for that kind of behavior. So for her to be like, oh, we're entitled to be here because this is our house. It's like, no, you're not. This is not your house at all. This is your sister-in-law's house, and you have now worn out your welcome.
welcome. So no, you are definitely not the jerk, and I don't think you should be beholden to any kind of promise you made previously, especially when they're openly and proudly disrespecting paying customers. That is absolutely unacceptable, and if I was in your shoes, I would do the exact same thing.
I grammar checked someone's college paper, and now he's blaming me for his failure, claiming that I should have fixed all of his mistakes, and that because I didn't, he got a failing grade. And I'm honestly blown away by this guy's entitlement, and I now think I'll never do grammar corrections for anybody ever again. Here's what happened. Ever since my high school days, I've been correcting some of my friends' papers. I mostly only check the grammar, but I also do some minor adjustments. For instance, I had one friend who didn't understand the concept of paragraphs until college, and this is something I do every now and then. I'm not a professional by any means, but my work has been good enough that my friends have recommended me to some of their peers. I graduated college in 2019. I'm not a teacher or a student, and I don't charge anyone anything. Whenever I agree to do this, it's purely just for the fun of it. However, I've been doing it less and less lately, as now I actually have a job. I've also got a husband and a toddler. Also, almost all my friends have graduated. One of the exceptions is a close friend of mine who recently decided to get a second degree. His class had a pretty big paper to deliver last week, and he recommended my services to a classmate of his. I was put in contact with a classmate, we'll call him Derek for the sake of the story, who is an 18-year-old who, based on our previous interactions through the phone, seemed like a chill person. In retrospect, I'm pretty sure he was probably just high. The paper was due last Monday at 7:30 in the morning, right before the start of their class, and he had promised me that he would send it to me for grammar check at least 24 hours before. Well, on Monday at 1 o'clock in the morning, Derek finally sent me the paper, and as promised, I swallowed my frustration and I got to work. The paper was 3 pages long. As I read it, I noticed that at least half of it was very clearly written by ChatGPT. It was bad enough that I almost immediately realized the information was wrong. I think the AI confused 2 different people, which completely derailed much of what came next, even though I only had a basic understanding of what the paper was about. But it was also 1 o'clock in the morning, and the grammar for that half was completely fine, so I didn't touch it. I only corrected the offensively atrocious grammar present pretty much everywhere else. I sent him the finished paper about an hour later, and he didn't even thank me. Well, Derek got his grade back yesterday, and his paper got a 2 out of 10, and his teacher apparently told him that he was lucky to even get that. Well, his response was to send me a text message that basically said something along the lines of, "What's going on, man? Weren't you supposed to correct it?" Well, I reminded Derek that I corrected grammatical errors, and I didn't even touch the information. He had been informed of that several times by both me and my friend, especially before I agreed to help him out. He rudely continued to text me that I should have corrected the rest of it anyways, since I could tell the information was inaccurate. So, Derek, who relied on AI to write half of a very important paper, is blaming me for the fact that his teacher saw right through it. And judging by some of his text messages, I think he expected me to rewrite parts of his paper. I mean, the absolute nerve of this guy. Now, I get it. I was a student once and I don't miss it, but I would never treat anyone like this, especially someone who had just done me a huge favor. And after this incident, I am seriously considering not doing grammar checks any longer. Wow, that guy is a complete jerk. Here you are providing a literal free service, and this guy's trying to blame you for his incompetence. Like, that is super inconsiderate, especially because it really sounds like he was trying to find someone to blame if things went wrong. Like, this idiot used an AI to write his paper, and he's trying to be like, wow, why didn't you fix it? It's like, dude, that is not what I signed up for. So honestly, I don't think you did anything wrong here. I think Derek's a complete moron, and in my opinion, I think you went above and beyond what would have been reasonable, especially because of the fact that he gave it to you at 1 in the morning. My shady, entitled boss is treating me and my coworkers like absolute garbage, refusing to pay for our overtime, as well as constantly yelling at us and doing shady things. And I'm now at a crossroads, and I seriously now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm currently employed at a restaurant where my boss treats all of us like garbage. Some things have gone over the edge recently, and I am counting down my days until I will be financially stable enough to quit. Please keep in mind, we are all 18 years of age and under working here, and I'm not sure what is right or wrong or what to do. Besides the owner and cooks who don't speak English, our manager is the only older coworker, but he is the boss's son and doesn't listen to our complaints because it's normal to him. For starters, my boss refuses to pay overtime. We are located in a state where it is mandatory to pay overtime if you are over 40 hours within a work week. He has cut our pay period short in order to avoid paying overtime, and I've kept track of my hours and have most definitely worked over 40 hours in a week and over 80 in 2 weeks and never received overtime, but somehow, some way, we get our pay a few days early, and it does not show as many hours, as if it were a full 2-week pay stub. I'm so super confused on that, and it doesn't only happen to me. I was actually scoffed at when I brought it up to the manager, the boss's son, as he stated that we don't pay overtime, and he even laughed at me when he said that. I mean, I was just completely speechless. He is also constantly yelling at us. He is foreign and uses it as an excuse to scream and belittle us all day. If there's a dirty plate on a table for more than a minute, he will scream and ask if we even know how to do our job. We have even gotten customers asking if we get yelled like that often because it is so loud and embarrassing. Also, he is very dirty. He will use moldy foods and he will reuse food that gets sent back because nothing ever goes to waste. And if we say anything, he tells us where the door is, basically. Also, and this is really sketchy, he used to sell illegal substances to other employees working there. And just as a reminder, everybody who works here is 18 years of age and under, if you know what I mean. And I'm talking like the really bad stuff. And he would also have parties at his house with all of us when we were like 16. He got in legal trouble, but only spent around a month in jail because he threatened us if we said anything. He even basically like blackmailed one of my coworkers, saying that he would tell the police about her issues if she said anything about his. He also talks garbage about different employees daily to all the other employees at the restaurant. Also, he will not fire you, so you can't just claim unemployment. Instead, he will just take all of your hours and leave you with one 4-hour shift and say that he doesn't have anything else when it's pretty clear that he does. And other employees recall him asking them if they could come in for more hours, and this is just so he can keep that one person with one shift so that eventually they're going to be forced to quit. So honestly, is there anything I can do about this situation? Because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, you need to document everything and record every interaction you ever have with this guy. Like literally anything that is possibly weird about this place, you mark that down and take note of it. Text conversations, any kind of like written documents, stuff that he's given you or things that he said to you. Literally, if I was in your shoes, I would be putting all of that down. I would then be calling like the Department of Labor tomorrow, as well as the health department, and report this guy. Like seriously, this guy is doing illegal stuff in his restaurant. He's not paying you what you're worth. He's not giving you overtime when you clearly have gotten a lot of overtime hours. He's basically breaking like every health code imaginable by reusing food, which by the way is really gross. And this guy has a history of like having weird parties with a bunch of minors. Like seriously, this guy does not sound like a good person. And in my opinion, he absolutely should pay for his crimes. I would even take like some stealthy photos if you can of the work environment and have that at the ready as proof that yeah, things are really bad right now. But also with that in mind, why on earth are you even trying to stay at this place? Like I would not wait in my opinion. If I was in your shoes, I would either be quitting or finding another job and then leaving like the next day. Because the way he's treating you right now is not okay. This is not normal behavior and this is not a normal working environment. This goes beyond having a boss that has a bad attitude. He's literally taking advantage of you because you're young. You are just a teenager even if you are 18. So he's counting on the fact that you don't know what to do and that he can intimidate you into silence. I mean, that's why he's trying to blackmail your other friend to be like, ooh, if you go to the cops, I'm gonna go to the cops as well and report you. Like this is some shady behavior and honestly, you do not deserve this in the slightest. So seriously, I would jump on that as soon as possible because what you're describing is really sketchy and you do not deserve to work in that kind of environment in the slightest. An entitled jerk and his family make my life as a server a living nightmare as he nitpicks and complains about everything in front of him, claiming that all of their food is wrong and that everything's cold. Things got so bad that this guy was practically chasing me around the restaurant as I was desperately trying to find a manager to resolve this issue. And I'm honestly still blown away by this guy's entitlement. Here's what happened. So I've been a server for several years here, and just when I thought I had seen it all, this happens to me. And before I begin, here's some necessary background that is important to me. First of all, I work in a high-end steakhouse with casual fine dining. Secondly, I'm a very small woman, and I'm very non-confrontational. Now, to begin this story, tonight I took a 14 top of trash. Literally, I'm talking the white tank top, the fake chain, the backwards hat and saggy pants, all being married to a Karen, with 5 older kids who were complete utter brats, and had kids of their own on the way who were also total brats, and then the grandparents, who could only whisper when ordering their food, but then could magically speak up to yell at you when they don't like something. Now, from the very start, they were awful. I knew from the beginning by how they were acting that I was putting gratuity on this table. They were nitpicking everything, such as them being upset that we had run out of tomatoes for their salad
salad. I go to take their food order after I ask if they're ready, and after standing there for 2 minutes with the first person, after they said yes, I told them I'd be right back and went to take care of the other 5 tables. I then go back and they order, and there's no problems here so far. The food gets ready and I have to make 2 trips, and when I'm running the second batch of food out, this is where problems begin. I'm carrying a full tray of food, and the man in the tank top starts yelling at me. He says to me, "Take all the food back, it's cold. My skillet is ice cold." Now, I kindly explain the skillets aren't supposed to be hot, and for the record, they're not. It's only just for show, and they only get hot if we leave them in the window too long. Well, he gets even madder at my explanation. He says to me, "You may as well just take all the food back, it's all cold." Now, I remain polite the entire time. I said to him, "Well, let's let everybody else try their meals, and if they're cold, I can fix them." He then looks at me and says, "Are you calling me a liar?" Now, I didn't even have a second to respond before this guy starts popping off at me and demanding to speak to a manager. I just say okay after I drop off the last plates. I start walking across the restaurant towards the bar where my manager is, and Tank Top Man gets up and starts trotting after me. And I mean, this guy is right on my tail. I feel so angry and just so uncomfortable. Luckily, we have a server-side station room where customers aren't allowed, and I can use it to cut through to get my manager without him following me. I pop out the other side and my manager isn't there. The guy sees me pop out on the other side and starts heading towards me again. And at this point, I'm freaking out. I'm practically jogging to the host, and I tell him that I need Linda or Joe right now. The host sees the guy, sees my state, and I think that he gets it. So we split off, and we're both frantically looking for either one. I managed to almost lose the guy when I find Linda, but he's only about 25 feet behind me. Words come pouring out of my mouth trying to explain quickly, but this guy comes stomping up, and he just pushes right past me in the direction of my table. He follows her, and she totally ignores him and whatever he's saying to her. I decide to stay many feet back, and I watch her deal with my messed up table from a distance. Now, I couldn't hear exactly what was said, but this is how it went from what she told me. She said that she just about punched one of them in the mouth, and it wasn't the tank top man who she got to calm down, but instead it was his mom that was popping off at her. And the other manager was going to finish off the table, but I would still get the gratuity, which was about 18%. In the end, only one steak got taken off, which they were very upset about, and I was instructed to stay out of their sight because apparently I had caused them such disdain. The manager takes over and I don't have to deal with them any longer. And the funniest thing is that after they left, I was cleaning up their table and I find a budgeting list with names, prices of things, how much they had to spend, and all this other stuff. I mean, these people had nothing left and they were hoping for a free meal. But hey, I'm gonna keep that list, I'm not gonna lie. And I'm also tempted to look their names up on Facebook just so I can laugh at them once again. Wow, that sounds like an awful table to deal with. They were immediately confrontational, and I bet they acted that way just so they could get a free meal. Like, if you really think about it, it kind of makes sense. Like, this guy was literally chasing you around the restaurant. He was all over you when you're trying to find a manager to meet his stupid demands. That is really crazy behavior, and I'm so sorry that you had to deal with that. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for not wanting my stepbrother to come along with me to my birthday party that I was having exclusively with my dad? Because right now, my mom and stepdad are calling me a jerk for saying no, and at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 15-year-old male, and my parents are divorced, and I have a stepbrother and 2 stepsisters. My stepbrother is 13 years old, and my stepsisters are 10 and 9 years old. Last year, I chose to stay mostly with my dad and see my mom every other weekend versus the every other week schedule that we had before. I prefer living with my dad. My relationship with my mom isn't close, and I don't like her husband or his son, so it was a no-brainer who I would be with more once I was old enough to decide. My mom blames my dad. She blames him for everything wrong in our relationship and the relationship with her husband and stepson. Her blaming my dad for everything is kind of why our relationship ended up this way. When I was younger and they were still married, she chose to stay away from school plays and stuff like that, especially if dad was taking time off work to be there, because she didn't want to be there with him because their marriage sucked. And when I asked her to come, she would tell me it was a choice between her and my dad. My parents fought about that too, and my dad called her childish and told her to put me first. It was easier when they divorced because they fought way less. Now, my mom isn't that warm either. She's fine, but not really the kind of parent you could seek comfort from. She has a really short temper and she dated a
a lot after she and my dad filed for divorce, and she introduced me to a bunch of random guys and tried to make me like them more than my own dad. When she got married to her husband, she made a big deal out of me needing to spend time with his kids and putting the expectation on me to give her time with her husband. Then her stepson wanted to come with me to my dad's place, and he was really trying to be my brother and would honestly get so annoying. Then my mom would annoy me because she said I should include him more. Her husband would get mad at me and say I should stay with them more since his son wanted a brother, and he told me his son could come with me to my dad on some weekends, especially if I insisted on seeing my dad. It was extra awful when my dad would take me on vacations and my stepbrother would beg to go with us and I would just say no. My mom would tell me to ask my dad and I would say no as well. She'd tell me that I was a brother whether I wanted to be or not, and I would include my sibling who wanted to go. I told her she can pay for a vacation between all of us, but I wasn't letting her stepson intrude when I was with my dad. My birthdays were always a nightmare too, because I had 2 birthdays and dad always did something fun with me and my friends. And this year is no exception, and he's taking us someplace really awesome. But it's a place my stepbrother has wanted to go for years, and when my dad gave my mom a heads up about it, as he has to do that when he takes me out of state, just like she has to do, she told her stepson and now he wants to come along. But here's the thing, I really don't want him there. My mom told me to not be a jerk, stating that they can't afford to take the family there. But I told her it wasn't my problem. Her stepson even tracked me down at school and begged me to go, but I told him no. My mom and her husband told me that I was being a jerk for doing this. So honestly, am I in the wrong in this situation? Because right now I'm really frustrated and I seriously don't know what to do. No, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think you're just trying to spend time with your dad and enjoy some semblance of privacy away from your obnoxious stepbrother. Like, why on earth would your dad even want your stepbrother to come with you? Like, if I was the dad in this scenario, I would want to have just my son with me so we can have a good time for their birthday. I wouldn't want this other kid with me that I don't know and have no claim to. And it's pretty clear that the stepbrother is being obnoxious. So the fact that your mom and your stepdad are just turning a blind eye to that, in my opinion, is so uncalled for. So no, you are not the jerk. You get 2 birthdays and you're spending this one with your dad. And in my opinion, it doesn't matter where you're going. If you don't want your stepbrother with you, then honestly, that is the end of the discussion. My wife's entitled aunt demands that we move out of my mother-in-law's house, claiming that we haven't earned that house and that my mother-in-law would do better just to sell it and keep the money. And despite the fact that we invested years into fixing up and cleaning up this house, me and my wife are left incredibly angry and very infuriated. And at this point, we seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So for a little bit of background, my in-laws divorced the same time my wife and I got married. They were not rich, but owned a company and were well off. Their house was a small rambler on an acre of land in a pretty nice area. When they split, my mother-in-law got the house. She ended up falling into a slump of online buying and turned the house into a hoarder situation. Come 2 years later, and she had a massive stroke and needs to have living assistance. My wife and I spent a full year of all our free time cleaning up the house and property. We even fill an industrial dumpster with garbage and hold multiple estate sales. We went through the usual arguments, where she would not want us to sell any of her china because it was her favorite piece, or she didn't want us to sell her stuff without her permission, since she claimed some of her stuff was worth thousands of dollars possibly. Now, after selling nearly everything she had, most of which she didn't even know she had, we only ended up with about $10,000. And this all went towards her medical bills, since of course she didn't think she needed insurance prior to the stroke, because according to her, insurance is a scam. Well, the house is actually pretty nice. We pay out of pocket ourselves to finish the remodel she started a decade ago and realize that we really like it. We are in our early 30s, and even with no kids, we have no shot we can afford a house this nice on this much land anytime soon. The market says the house is worth $850,000, and my mother-in-law wants to sell it, but it's completely paid off. My wife convinced her to let us rent to own from her and change the will so we could get it in the end, and we would just have to buy my wife's sister out of whatever's left on the cost. And honestly, that's a good deal in my opinion. Well, fast forward 2 years and we call this house our own. We take care of it, we work on it, we literally do everything. The yard and house look nicer than they have in 20 years. My mother-in-law is slowly recovering from her stroke, but she still can't walk or do much on her own, and yet even still, her sister appears. She is insisting my mother-in-law evict us and sell the house, that she should use the money to live somewhere nicer. Apparently, her reasoning is that we didn't earn a house that nice, and that we're just squatting in her house.
house. She also said that she's getting better, so she might want to live there again, or could at least use the money. Now, this is a 2,000 square foot rambler, and we are paying $2,000 a month towards the house and essentially her medical bills. And we are taking care of her every single week. And yet this entitled aunt's first thought is to evict us and take it back for their own gain. And it's honestly all so infuriating. Yeah, your aunt is completely out of line. What is she talking about? You guys didn't earn a house. You absolutely earned that house. You paid for everything. You fixed it up for what, 2 years? And you're literally taking care of it every single day. Like, in my opinion, you absolutely earned that house. Also, what has this aunt done to help out her sister? Like, she has very clearly been sitting on the sidelines watching all this go down, and only once this house is like up to standards and has some kind of like relevance again, is she like, oh yeah, you should sell it and evict them. They haven't earned any of this. But in reality, she hasn't earned any of this. She's sitting there trying to be like, oh yeah, they don't deserve this. But like, what have you done for the house? All of this just sounds really infuriating, and I completely understand where you're coming from, because your wife's aunt sounds like an absolute piece of garbage. And in my opinion, she does not deserve anything she's trying to claim. My entitled parents have treated me poorly my entire life, never showing me any kind of love, appreciation, or credit for the things that I do. And now that I have a family of my own, I'm making a promise to never treat my kids the way that my mom treated me growing up, because honestly, it is all just so disappointing. Here's what happened. So I'm a 39-year-old female, and I am one of 3 kids, and have been treated poorly my entire life by my awful parents. One of my siblings is treated so differently than the other 2 that it's almost a joke when the phone rings when I'm there and my sibling is calling. If I call my mom, you can tell that she's typically doing something while talking to me, and I might get 5 minutes with her. But if I happen to be at her house and the sibling calls, everything stops. Her voice inflection changes, and you would think the most important person in the world called. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm right here, mom. It's been like this my whole life. I paid my way through college and even had to pay back a loan to the very last cent for some things that I couldn't afford for my wedding. In contrast, my sibling not only had a fully paid for wedding ceremony at a posh venue, but also had a completely separate lavish reception months later that I'm sure cost in the upper tens of thousands of dollars. I've never been given any credit for being the first to graduate college in my family, being financially independent, raising a great family, or just generally being a decent member of society. My sibling is completely codependent, and if something happens, my mom will drop everything and go tend to them, even though they are married and should be able to provide for themselves. Every year they put on a big event for the family, and I happen to be there and just mention how tired and busy I've been because I put in 10 to 12-hour days working and raising multiple children. Most days my parents never leave the house, watching 24/7 cable news and scrolling social media, and all I get from them is a scoff as they say, "You're tired? We do so much more than you." I mean, it's almost comical at this point. Fortunately, my husband and I are very aware of the tendencies that we see, and we are open with our children about how we will never be that way, and they have every right to call us even if we are. I just thought I was unlucky. I had no idea this was a generational issue. The best part is that they always talk about how wonderful the good old days were, and I'm like, why don't you get out there and make some new memories? But you know what? Whatever. Because at least now I know what I don't want to be in 20 years. Wow, that really sucks for the original poster. I'm so sorry that they clearly have chosen favorites, and it seems like nothing you ever do is going to be good enough for these people. But I think the one silver lining here that I think you can hopefully hold on to is the fact that you recognize exactly the way they're treating you, and you know firsthand that what they're doing is very wrong. So hopefully you can be a better mom than your mom has ever been to you, because from the sounds of it, it doesn't seem like she was very attentive in the slightest. Am I the jerk for returning gifts my family gave to my newborn daughter after they said they hate my daughter's name, and that because I broke a family tradition, they will never accept my daughter? Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 26-year-old female, and I gave birth to my first child 3 weeks ago. And trust me, my family is not happy with the name I chose for my daughter. My parents and siblings had wanted me to name my daughter Agatha or Agnes because those are family names, and it's part of a theme that my family keeps, where the oldest girl and the youngest girl pass the initials of their name to their children, and because my name also begins with an A, they wanted me to do this as the youngest. My oldest sister followed the tradition, my mother's oldest and youngest sisters did it, my cousins even did it, but my husband and I did not want to follow the tradition, and we didn't want a classic name for our baby anyways. We chose the name Indy for our daughter, and I had told my family during my pregnancy that I was not using the name Agatha or Agnes or any name starting with the letter A for my baby. In fact, I told them that more
more than once, but for some reason they decided that Agatha would be the name. When my daughter was born and my family came to visit us at the hospital, they were all shocked by the name that we chose. They asked me what I was thinking going for a name like that, and then told me I had broken the tradition for some weird name that doesn't make sense. My husband asked them to leave the hospital if they couldn't keep their opinions to themselves. They eventually apologized, which I believed was sincere, and they came to our house with gifts. But when I saw the gifts, I noticed anything personalized had the name Agatha on it. And when I asked about it, they told me Agatha was a much better name. And surely I didn't want my daughter to have a dumb modern name like Indy. My mom told me she could not understand me picking such a hideous name, and she said my husband and most of my friends had set bad examples with their names, but I should stick to classics because they are classic for a reason. She told me they would never be able to accept the name Indy in the family. Well, I returned all the gifts to their packaging, and I returned them to my family before asking them to leave. I told them they did not get to insult my daughter's name again and push so hard for us to change the name that we as parents had decided on. My recovery from surgery has been slow, so my husband was the one to make sure they actually left, but they were upset that I was responding to them like I was. They told me I should have been more honest about the name earlier, and I was punishing them for thinking more of my daughter than my husband and I were. Now, I do feel bad for returning the gifts and kicking them out, and the number of text messages that they have sent me since then basically tell me that they didn't like it either. So I'm honestly wondering if I'm the jerk, because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Okay, I want to say first and foremost that I think family traditions like this are really dumb. Like seriously, just let people name their kids whatever they want. It is so dumb when families do stuff like this, where they freak out just because you picked a different name for your child. And for them to double down and be like, we won't accept the name that you gave your child. Like, what is wrong with these people? That is so insulting. And you know what? If I was in your situation like right now, and they said that to me and gave me gifts with the name Agatha on it, I would have done the same thing that you did. I would have taken the gifts and given it right back to them. Like, there's no way you're gonna come into my house and act like that. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. And if they don't like the fact that you stood up for yourself, then that's something that they have to deal with, not you. My entitled manager freaks out on me when she sees me sitting down at the cash register, stating that if I refuse to work, then I should just sit at the register and she would do everything. So I decided to maliciously comply by proving to her how ridiculous she was being in this moment. Here's what happened. Okay, so I work part-time in a small convenience store, and it's just me and the boss lady. I'm usually there so she can do paperwork in the back and order supplies. So while I'm on the cash register, I have to keep everything in front stocked up, keep the returned drink bottles and cans neatly organized, etc. It is honestly pretty steadily busy. Well, every now and then she likes to freak out and start complaining about something. And yesterday she came out to find me sitting at the cash register. I had just made sure everything was completely restocked. I had been regularly running into the back and grabbing things and refilling stuff, but she chose to freak out and accuse me of not doing any work. And since I apparently didn't want to work, I should just sit there at the register and she would do everything. Now, at first I thought she was joking, and I laughed as I got up to do something, but she suddenly got really mean and got in my face and said to just sit down and she would do everything. So you know what? That's exactly what I did. I started telling her everything I was about to do, and she actually just started doing it. I was just sitting at the register and smiling. So she looked at me and said, "Oh, it must be nice to sit there at the register and not have to do anything." So I happily said back to her, "You bet it is. Thank you so much." And in the end, she just glared at me as she went back to her office. Wow, that job sounds like it sucks. This lady clearly was looking for someone to blame about something, and you just happen to be the one person she can pick on at the moment. And it's so ironic that she came around right after you got done doing something else in the store. Like, you weren't just sitting there doing nothing. You were out working. You were getting stuff done, getting things restocked. And I know when I've worked like customer service and I've had managers similar to the one you've dealt with, they always show up right when you're about to sit down and then try to act like, "Oh, you haven't done anything today. Everything looks so neat and clean." And you want to say, "Yeah, well, everything's in order because of me." So I personally find this malicious compliance hilarious. And honestly, if I was in your shoes, I would do the same thing. But I also would definitely be looking for another job, because this lady sounds like she is miserable to work for. My entitled mother nearly ruins my expensive trip to New York City, as she said she would book my flight for me as a gift. But instead of actually following through with that, she instead put this off for far too long, leaving me with no choice but to book the flight myself. And in the end, she called me ungrateful, despite the fact that she almost ruined everything. And to this day, this situation honestly still makes me mad. Here's what happened. Okay, so this happened to me about
about 2 years ago, but it still enrages me whenever I think about it. Before the pandemic started, I bought tickets to go see Rage Against the Machine at Madison Square Garden in New York City. I live in Los Angeles, so I planned a whole week-long trip to New York City around this concert. And unfortunately, the concert was postponed twice due to COVID. When the concert's rescheduled date was finally solid, I decided to book my flight. I was talking about the trip on the phone with my entitled mother, and she insisted on booking my flight for me as a gift. I was meeting friends in New York City, and we spent a full evening on the phone booking restaurants, museum tickets, show tickets, and several other things. And I found the perfect flight that would get me there in time for everything. And they only had 2 tickets left. So I called my mom and I told her I wanted this particular flight. She said okay and to send her the flight information, and she would book it for me. I sent a link to the flight, I sent screenshots and all this other stuff, and I made it super easy for her to book. I told her it was absolutely imperative that I get this particular flight as my friends and I had things planned, and she insisted that she would book it. Now, for reference, I live in a different time zone than her, and when I woke up the next morning, I did not see a flight confirmation email in my inbox, so I called her up. She answered the phone sounding very annoyed that she was in her doctor's waiting room for a routine checkup, and she started whisper yelling at me, "What do you want?" And it was then that I just decided to call her back. Well, 5 o'clock p.m. rolls around, and I still don't have a flight confirmation email, so I called her again, and she again picked up incredibly angry with me, yelling at me that she was in Costco and why in the world do I keep calling her? I told her that she promised to book a flight for me and that there were only 2 seats left almost 24 hours ago, and that it was absolutely essential that I get on this flight. Well, she told me, "Oh, just forget it, I'll do it later." When she said that, I got very mad, and I was like, "What are you talking about? There were only 2 seats left last night." She then started screaming into the phone at me. She said to me, "You're getting a free flight, so you could just shut up and I'll book the flight whenever I feel like it. You need to be more grateful that I'm even offering to do this favor." And then after that, she hung up the phone on me. So she basically left me no choice but to book the flight myself and get the last seat possible. She called me when she got home from Costco and kept yelling about how I was ungrateful, but I told her that she had done nothing to be grateful for except almost ruin my trip. I mean, why would I be grateful for that? And here's the thing, she wanted to use points and not money to pay for the flight. And before anyone says anything, I don't need my mom to book me a flight. I'm a 40-year-old female, and she offered to book the flight. I didn't ask her or beg her. If she said she was going to book the flight for me, why would I not take her at her word and believe that she was going to do it that night? It's honestly so frustrating, and even to this day, it still upsets me. Wow, that honestly is so enraging. Here you are trying to get your plans ready for you and your friends, and you thought in good faith your mom was going to book this flight for you as some kind of like good favor. And I literally don't think you could have made this any easier. You sent her a link to the flight, you sent screenshots, you literally sent everything to this lady, and somehow she didn't understand how crucial and like time sensitive this was. And I'm kind of convinced that she probably would have never booked the flight, but instead tried to shop around for something cheaper and made you change your plans instead of just buying the flight that you were looking for. Like at that point, I don't blame you for just buying your own ticket. So honestly, it really sounds like your mom was awful in this situation, and hopefully you don't have to deal with anything like that ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. My best friend is upset that I got engaged before she did, all because her boyfriend of 5 years simply won't do it. And now I'm sensing a lot of resentment and jealousy from my best friend. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so for some backstory, my best friend has been with her boyfriend for 4.5 years, and she has been begging him to propose. She even set a deadline last year that if he doesn't propose before Christmas, she will leave him. Well, he didn't propose, and she is still dropping passive-aggressive remarks at him from time to time about it. And I have tried to help. I took her to get measurements a year ago because her boyfriend said that he won't buy one if he doesn't know her size and all this other garbage. Well, my boyfriend proposed 2 weeks ago, and that's after 2 years of being together and 1.5 years of living together. I said yes, and I've been so happy. And when I told my friends, they were also so happy for me. A few even cried, and they were asking for every single detail. But when it came to my best friend, I decided to tell her over dinner. We met up and I showed her the ring, and she didn't even try to be fake happy with me. She just said to me, "You guys are rushing. I mean, I don't think
about stuff like that now. My man and I will buy rings together and announce our engagement next month. She gave me no congratulations, no nothing. I felt embarrassed and tried to change the subject to lighten the mood because I still want to hang out with my best friend. Eventually, she barely talked. I gave up and it was so awkward. We eventually went home after just an hour. And right now, I'm honestly so hurt. I know she's hurting too, but to act like this feels so immature. Would it be a bad idea to text her and tell her this and talk it out? I mean, how can I even fix this? What should I do? Okay, first and foremost, it is really bad that your friend is acting this way. Like, just because you're getting engaged doesn't mean that somehow this is some kind of shot at her. Like, you really can live your own life and have your own things going on. Just because her boyfriend won't propose to her after what, 5 years? Like, that literally is not your fault or your problem. So I know if I was in your shoes, I would probably put some distance between me and this friend. Like, she is clearly very jealous of you and the fact that you're getting married before her, so she feels the need to try and like one-up you in some way to feel good about herself again. And she probably feels like she's losing her mind in this relationship too. She's waited 5 years to get married. Meanwhile, her best friend is getting married way sooner than her. And you've been with your boyfriend for much less time. Also, if we want to look at this seriously, it doesn't sound like she's very serious about getting married either, or even about this relationship in the slightest. Like, didn't she give some kind of ultimatum to her boyfriend and basically say that if we don't get engaged by Christmas, then she's gonna break up with him? Because last I checked, she's still with him and Christmas definitely passed. So it really sounds like she's got her own problems to figure out. So honestly, in my opinion, I don't think you did anything wrong, and I think some time and distance might be the best thing in this scenario, because your friend is clearly jealous of you, and hopefully she can come back around and figure out exactly what she wants. Am I the jerk for giving my son's room to my grandchild? Because right now, my son is freaking out, claiming that we're trying to erase him from the family by giving his room over to my grandchild. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm a 56-year-old woman, and I have 3 children. We'll call them Brad, Emma, and Sophia. Those are not their real names. Brad, who's 32 years old, lives about 4 hours away. Emma, who's 29, just recently moved back home. And Sophia, who's 23, still lives with my husband and I. Emma was engaged, and the relationship became awful, so we urged her to stay with us for a while for both safety reasons and financial reasons. She's also 32 weeks pregnant with our first child, which will also be our first grandchild. She does work hard, but took a financial hit when her relationship ended, and home prices are insanely high here. We have a nice size 4-bedroom home that we've owned since the kids were little. All 3 of our kids have their own bedrooms, and Brad's room is currently vacant except for the few times a year that he visits. Brad moved out about 3 years ago and did not at all take care of his room. I had to do a lengthy cleanup when he moved out, and the room has been needing to be redone for quite a while. I told Emma that I would happily help her renovate Brad's room for the baby, and the baby will be sleeping in her room the first few months anyways, but the nursery will give her a dedicated space to keep the baby's things and a place for the baby to sleep once the bassinet is outgrown. The only caveat was that the room needs to have a bed for Brad's visits. When he comes home, he can either stay in his old room and the baby can be in a pack and play with Emma, or Emma can stay in the baby's room and Brad can stay in hers. It's not ideal, but it's the best option for Emma at this time, and it's something that we can make work. I was telling Brad about the plans to renovate his room into a nursery, and he just completely freaked out. He said that I should have asked him and not told him. He feels that I'm trying to erase him from the family and that I'd rather have the baby than him. He said he's not going to visit anymore or come home for holidays because he won't feel welcome. He feels his sister was irresponsible to get pregnant and that she is not owed his childhood bedroom for her child. He feels it has sentimental value, and I'm just getting rid of that without second thought. But I disagree with him wholeheartedly. I love all of my kids and my unborn grandchild, and I'm just trying to do right by all of them with the resources that I have. He comes home very few times a year, maybe less than 10 nights per year, and to me, it just doesn't make sense to have a vacant room when we could really use that space for a baby. So am I the jerk for just giving away his childhood bedroom? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. No, you are definitely not the jerk. Brad does not live there anymore. He literally lives 4 hours away. Does he really expect you to keep his room as it is? Especially now that he's 32 years old and he moved out? Like, that's insane to me. Plus, it sounds like his sister really is in need of help. Like, unless he's renting that room out for some reason, in my opinion, I think you're well within your right to clean it out and use it for whatever you want. He is overreacting and trying to shift the blame onto Emma. Meanwhile, he's missing the fact that Emma was in an awful relationship. Like, not just verbally, but physically as well. She literally moved back home for safety safety. Like, how selfish can you possibly get? Like, come on. So no, you're definitely not the jerk. Brad is overreacting, and in my opinion, I think you're well within your rights to change that room as you see fit. Am I the jerk for not wearing the wedding dress my stepsister handmade for me, since she made something that I definitely did not agree upon, and the sizing was completely wrong? Because right now, my dad and my stepmom are furious with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I'm a 25-year-old female, and I got married 2 weeks ago. My now husband and I paid for most of the wedding, but my father covered a few costs for us. My father's girlfriend, who we will call Stella, has a daughter by the name of Zoe, who is finishing her degree in fashion. She wants to get into the wedding dress industry once she graduates, and when I started planning my wedding, she offered to design and make my dress. Now, I was hesitant at first, as I'd been excited about picking out my own dress, but I agreed because I didn't know Zoe that well, as my father had only been dating her mother for about 2 years, and I thought this could be a nice opportunity to bond. Also, I'd seen some of her work, where she had made a couple of ball gowns in college, and she seemed honestly good. We met up a few times to discuss our ideas. During those times, I realized that our styles were drastically different, but we still managed to agree on a design. I gave Zoe my measurements and asked her to update me. Well, she didn't. Whenever I asked her how she was doing, she would say that she was going to send me progress pictures when she got home, but she never did. It took her longer than expected to finish it, and I didn't even get the dress until a month before my wedding. And let me tell you something, it looked nothing like the design we had agreed upon. It was the wrong color, the wrong style, the wrong everything. It looked exactly like the type of dress Zoe would want to wear, but I knew I'd never wear anything like it. I really did not like that dress. When I tried it on, I found out it was also 3 sizes too big. And though I knew I could probably have it altered, I truly did not want to wear that dress on my wedding day. So I called Zoe and I told her I wouldn't be wearing the dress. I said that it looked lovely, but it is not the style that we agreed upon, and I thought it would be best for me to find a different dress. I offered to pay for her work, even though she was making the dress for free, but she declined and then just hung up on me. So I went to a rental bridal store with my maid of honor, and we found a beautiful gown that didn't need much altering, and it looked exactly like I wanted. Fast forward to my wedding, and I walked down the aisle in the dress that I bought. Zoe seemed to be on the verge of tears during the ceremony, and Stella gave me dirty looks all throughout the reception. When I approached them a while later, they were both really short with me. My father, Stella, and Zoe left less than an hour into the reception. My father and Stella called me the next day and told me off for how I treated Zoe. This had been her first time making a wedding dress, and she had been excited to see me wear it. They said it was insulting to me to not wear the dress that she put so much effort into. I tried to explain why I didn't wear the dress, but they were both insisting the dress was beautiful and I could have just sucked it up. Now, my husband and my other sister are on my side, but I've been feeling guilty about this since I decided not to wear the dress. So honestly, am I in the wrong here? Because seriously, I don't know what to do. I don't think you're the jerk at all, and the fact that your dad and Stella are basically trying to force you to wear this stupid dress, in my opinion, is super toxic. I mean, this is your wedding, right? You and your husband paid for the most of it, with your dad just paying for a few costs that you couldn't cover. So last I checked, if Zoe made a crappy dress, then you're under no obligation to have to wear it. So what if she put a lot of time and effort into it? She clearly did it wrong, and she didn't go with the agreed upon design at all. Like, if I was in your shoes, I would be pretty upset as well. And this literally is all Zoe's fault too, by the way. If she had just given updates to the original poster, then literally all of this could have been avoided. She could have received all the direction she could have needed from the original poster, and this dress could probably come out looking closer to what the original poster wanted. But instead, it really seems like she slapped it together last minute and decided, here you go, this is good enough. Like, that seriously is obnoxious, and honestly, I would not put up with that for a second. So no, you are not the jerk, and you were definitely not obligated to wear that dress at your wedding. And anybody who's trying to guilt trip you in some kind of way, in my opinion, is completely out of line. Am I the jerk for refusing to help my dad's wife with their baby, as well as telling them that I am not their helper? Because right now they are very upset with me, and at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. I'm a 17-year-old male, and my dad and I do not have a good relationship. When my mom was sick with cancer, my dad was out cheating on her, and he left me to take care of my younger siblings. I have a sister who's 12 years old and a brother who's 11. He even let me catch him with 2 different women during that time, and my mom was on hospice care. So it was really difficult not to say anything, but I was so overwhelmed and scared that saying the wrong thing would take her from us sooner. Now, this was 4 years ago, and I never forgot
forgave him for what he put me through. I told him before that I never want to be like him when I grow up, and he is no role model to me. I also called him a failure as a husband and a father. Well, he was angry at being called a failure as a father, but when his 3 kids needed him the most, he wasn't there. Instead, he was messing around with women on the side. He also said he loved my mom and never wanted me to say he was all bad as her husband. I said I found it so hard to believe, and he would never convince me he actually loved her. Now, I was still mostly in charge after my mom passed away, but eventually my siblings started to pick up some skills, so I wasn't basically doing it all. It really helped, and it made us regular siblings again, instead of me almost being a dad to the family. But it was also tough because they're really young, and I hated that they were forced to grow up so fast. Losing our mother did that anyways. Fast forward, and my dad met someone a couple of years ago, and he introduced her to us last year, and it took only a few weeks for her to move in. Then suddenly she's pregnant, and they raced to get married. My dad's wife tried to involve my siblings and me in her pregnancy excitement, but I wasn't excited, and I don't think they were either. I'm pretty sure we all avoided her as much as we could. The baby was born in December, and she has been reaching out to me to help pretty often. But the thing is, I don't help her. I check in on my siblings where I can, but other than that, I focus on myself. I know biologically that baby is my half-sibling, but I just don't care. I don't see them as a sibling, and I'm not planning to bond with them or keep them in my life once I'm in college. I won't even speak to my dad either, just my siblings. Recently, Dad's wife has been pressing more for my help, and the other day, she asked me why I could be such a great big brother to my younger siblings, but I have never even held her baby. She told me she sees me do so much for my siblings, and knows that I was the person who helped them through when my mom was sick and when she passed away. She told me she figured I would want to be the same for her baby, but I told her it wasn't my job to help and to get her husband if she needed help. She told me she wanted her baby to be accepted, and none of us had accepted the baby yet, and none of us had even interacted with the baby yet. She said it's not fair and she needs help, but I told her I am not a helper, and she needs to hire someone if she really wants help, or to repeat myself again, she can get my dad, but I won't be doing anything for her or her baby. Well, as a result, she called me disgusting. So am I the jerk here? What should I do? Honestly, I think with all things considered, I don't think you're the jerk. If she knows about your mom passing away, as well as you stepping up to take care of your siblings, then she has got to know how much of a deadbeat your dad actually is. He abandoned you and your siblings and did nothing to help the family. He cheated on your mom and made your life a lot more miserable than it needed to be. Not to mention the fact that your mom passed away in the process of all of this. Like, I can't imagine that happening to me, but I know if I was in your shoes, I would feel the exact same way. He betrayed your trust and your siblings' trust, and I don't blame you for being upset and choosing to keep your distance from his new family that he's clearly trying to create. Because what he did to you and your siblings is unacceptable, and in my opinion, you have every right to be upset. An entitled Karen goes on a long, insulting rant, making fun of my art project and my house in the process, and I'm honestly still blown away by this Karen's entitlement. Here's what happened. Okay, to start things out, I'm an artist, and one of my most popular items are customized haunted home drawings of people's houses. They send me a photo and I draw it as a spooky house. It's a pretty cut and dry process. I vend at local markets and oddity events, and my stuff is kind of gothy and very niche. I'm no stranger to the entitled Karen side-eye when they clearly don't care for my work, but this Karen was just so mad about something so stupid. The sample haunted home I have on display, next to an actual photo of the house, is my own home. I'm a mid-30s millennial in a high cost of living area, and I'm just happy to have been able to buy a home at all. It was a lot of timing and luck, and it's no mansion or anything like that, but from the outside my home does look very small. When I was explaining the process to this entitled Karen, she looked at the sample, which is my house by the way, and with this disgusted look on her face, she said to me, "But this house is so small. Why would anyone want a drawing of something like this? It's barely a house at all. Maybe a shed, really." She even called her friend over to point it out and laugh a bit, and continued to talk about how embarrassing it was, and who could possibly live in a shack like that, continuing to say there's no room for anything, and the scariest thing about it is how small it is. Now, she went on for a fairly long time, and I was kind of struck silent. Eventually, when I snapped back to reality, I just smiled and said, "Well, we make it work. I'm just grateful to even have a home in a market like this." And I said that in the most sugary, sweet way possible. But really, I was just trying not to cry. Now, to give her the most minimal credit, this entitled Karen turned red, did a 180, and walked away. So, in the end, she at least had the tiniest bit of shame.
same. Wow, some people just can't keep their mouth shut. Like seriously, she went on this long tirade and this long rant about this house, not thinking for a second that the way she's acting is probably like super rude. Like she very easily could have been like, oh, that's cool, and then moved on. But instead, this entitled Karen just had to make her stupid opinion known. And to that regard, I am so happy that the original poster basically called her out, because the way this Karen acted honestly was just not okay, as there was no reason to go on such a long tirade over something so simple. My entitled father-in-law causes his family to go bankrupt in less than 3 months, as he fell for multiple scams where he gave out all of his banking and financial information to scammers who were claiming to be investors. And I'm honestly blown away by how idiotic and stupid my father-in-law truly was. Here's what happened. So my father-in-law not only lost all his family's money, but also went deep into debt in under 3 months. He first fell for a weird investment scheme. He invested 500 euros on some website that claimed to be able to multiply his investment in just a few weeks. After watching some fake numbers on a fake website rise to astronomical heights, he decided to invest 50,000 euros and then another 50,000 euros on top of that. When his supposed investment had skyrocketed to a 7-figure number, he tried to withdraw it but found himself unable to do so. The investment company then contacted him and told him they would gladly send him his money. But since this is an international transfer, he needs to put forward 5,000 euros to cover transfer fees and taxes, which he unfortunately gladly did. A week after, they emailed him again and tried to tell him that his 5,000 euros did not cover the whole fee and that they needed more. Now, instead of sending more money, he decided to put his foot down and demanded that they send his money immediately. Well, they called him back, telling him that all they needed were his bank details. So he literally gave them his card numbers, his online login, and even gave them his 2-factor authentication code several times. Now, instead of giving him his millions, he got his savings and his bank accounts completely drained, and they went down literally as far as they will go. Since my father-in-law is kind of entitled, and he really likes to brag about how much credit he has available, this meant that he was down almost 50,000 euros. When he found himself unable to literally pay for anything, and his bank desperately calling him, he went to the bank manager who almost had a heart attack. He ended up going to the police to file a report, he closed his accounts, and got a new credit for the overdraft, and got a new non-compromised account. 2 weeks later, some random guy called him out of the blue and claimed to be an international fraud investigator and offered to pursue his scammers to get his millions for him. All he needed to get started was a 3,000 euro fee, which my father-in-law gladly paid. The guy then sent him mail demanding more money since the job unexpectedly turned out harder than anticipated. Well, my father-in-law refused and demanded the investigator do the job he was already hired for. Well, the investigator then contacted him again and said he had managed to secure his millions, but all this guy needed was his bank details. So he literally again gave away his card numbers, his online login, and 2-factor authentication codes to his new account to some random guy on the phone, who by the way barely even spoke his language. And he did this for the second time, and once again his bank account gets drained. He literally went from having 320,000 euros in his retirement fund to being almost negative 50,000 euros in debt in about 3 months. So you might be wondering, where are we now? Well, the only reason he hasn't entered literal bankruptcy yet is all because his wife has her finances all completely separate from him, and now she has to fund their entire life while his monthly pension payments get almost completely garnished to pay off his debt. We also spoke to a lawyer and they told us that he is completely on the hook for all the lost money and any accrued debt because there is no judge in this nation that would not consider him at the very least grossly negligent for what he did. And you know what? My father-in-law still believes that he made millions. Wow, that is actually insane. Like, this guy is seriously not safe with his money. He went from having 320,000 euros in his retirement fund to being in the negative 50,000 euros. Like, this guy should not be handling any kind of money. That is seriously such a stupid investment, and I can't believe he wouldn't have vetted these sources just a little bit more instead of going from 500 euros all the way up to 50,000 euros. Like, that seriously is such a bad call. So unfortunately, he's probably never getting that money back, but hopefully this never happens again, because clearly your father-in-law cannot be trusted with money, and for the sake of you and your family, I hope he doesn't get his hands on any sizable amount anytime soon. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own story. stories. Am I the jerk for blocking my grandmother after she refused to apologize for bringing up family drama? Because right now I'm seriously upset, and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So my grandmother and I had an argument again we had last year. We were vacationing together and had a great time for the most part, but she kept bringing up how burdensome my mom is in her life. Now, for reference, my grandmother fully financially supports her, and she says that she feels obligated to since she is her daughter. Now, I haven't had any real ties to my mom since I was 15. She would be homeless now without my grandmother as she refuses to work, and she spends all of her time with shady people who get her evicted from the places that my grandmother rents for her. My family has all advised my grandmother to let her fall on her own, and I myself say it every single time she talks to me about the latest difficulty she has with my mother, but she just says that she can't do that. Well, I raised my voice after asking her to please talk about anything else, because I'm honestly so tired of this. I don't control my mom, and I am fully aware of what a basket case she is. It just brings me down to hear about it, and I would rather not. And for a while after that, she stopped bringing it up. Well, my father passed away a little less than 2 years ago, and I was with her the other day, and she wouldn't stop telling me the same story that she's told me a few times before. In 2013, my dad had an agreement with my grandmother, and it stated that grandma and grandpa will pay for most of their mortgage if they can handle the rest. She frames the story as a mistake that ruined her life, and how if not for that, everything would be so much better right now. But I was 13 when that happened. I couldn't fix it as I wasn't really aware of it either. I also can't do anything about it now, and the fact that he's passed away makes it more hurtful to me. So I told her, please stop complaining about my family when we hang out. It won't help and we can't fix it. Well, she refused, stating that it was family history and she was just stating facts. But I told her that I've heard it all before, and this is the third time this exact same story has been told to me since he passed away. I told her the story is boring and uninteresting to me. I mean, she never even says anything bad about my uncle, who's had a divorce that I never even learned about. I was angry, so my voice was raised, and I told her to tell me that story, but she said she had no idea. But she and my uncle are and always have been very close. I just find it unbelievable that any mother who's not estranged wouldn't know why her son had a divorce. I called her a liar because I was upset at this point, and I was plugging my ears to get her to see that I wasn't interested in continuing the conversation, especially when it's about my late father. But regardless, she still persisted. She texted me saying that she can't sleep and how I should not have attacked my uncle. I told her I didn't say anything bad about him. I just wanted to know that history instead, and the way she's framing it is not fair because it's actually new information to me. I said to her that she should be ashamed to talk bad about my father who's passed away, and if she won't apologize, I will block her. Well, she refused, and then wrote this entire paragraph about how she isn't ashamed and did her best and listed all the ways that she's helped out. She then finished that by saying, "So the ball's in your court," and as a result, I just blocked her. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? What should I do? Honestly, I don't think you're the jerk at all. I think what you asked of your grandmother is completely reasonable, because from the sounds of it, it really seems like she wants to take out all of her problems about your dad on you. That's the only reason she's bringing it up every time you guys spend time together. And that's really toxic and really not fair. Like, you are not responsible for any deals that your dad made with your grandmother, and it's really weird for her to take it out on you in some kind of way, because honestly, that's the way it feels. So no, I don't think you're the jerk, because it really seems like your grandma is being obnoxious. And I know if I was in your shoes, I would probably feel the exact same way. My girlfriend blatantly breaks my laptop screen and is now refusing to not only take any responsibility for it, but she's also refusing to pay anything towards fixing it. And right now, as a result, I am incredibly frustrated because at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I live with my partner, and we have been together for around 3 years. Recently, I've noticed when she's tidying some things away, she places them on my laptop, and I've asked her if she would not do that as she's putting quite heavy objects on it, and I don't want my laptop to get damaged. She said it'll be fine and to stop worrying about it, but I just asked her again to please not do it. Well, she didn't listen, and she kept doing it, and each time I noticed, I would remove the items. Well, I went to use my laptop, and half of the screen just has thick lines through it, so the laptop is completely unusable. I told my girlfriend this, and I told her it's because she keeps piling things on top of it. Well, she once again said that it's fine, and that I can just get a new one, but I told her I expect her to replace it, since she's the one who broke it. She said it was an accident, but I pointed out that she repeatedly ignored me when I told told her not to put things on it, so I expect her to get me a replacement. Well, she refused and said that I could just use hers when she's not using it, but I said no. I should have my own laptop and she should replace it since she's the one who damaged it. She got annoyed and said I shouldn't be expecting her to pay for it since it's my laptop and she would have to use some of her savings. I told her it's her own fault and that I need a replacement. Well, she said that I was being unreasonable just by asking her to spend some of her savings, but I think I'm being completely reasonable, especially when she's the one who broke it. So honestly, does anyone have any advice on how to handle this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Okay, for starters, it really seems like your girlfriend is the reason your laptop broke. And I know exactly the problem you're having because this happened to me as well. Sometimes if you put heavy stuff on the back of a closed laptop, it can permanently mess up the screen. And I know the lines that you're talking about and all of that. And that is really frustrating and it is very expensive to fix. But it honestly makes me wonder if just fixing the screen would be cheaper than buying a brand new laptop altogether. I'm not sure what kind of laptop you have, so hopefully it's like reasonable, but there might be some kind of middle ground where you're like, okay, you don't have to like change out the entire laptop, but at least pay for the repairs or something like that. And of course, that's at least compared to like if it would be cheaper to just buy a new laptop compared to fixing the screen, because sometimes that is the case. It's all relative to the type of laptop you get, but the main punchline is that yes, your girlfriend is on the hook for this. I find this to be a completely reasonable expectation, and the fact that she's unwilling to even take responsibility for it, in my opinion, is a giant red flag, and that is not something I would personally take lightly. This next story came from the Am I the Jerk subreddit. Check the links in the description if you would like to submit your own story. My grandma always complains about my condo, as she states that it's absolutely disgusting. But after receiving these comments one too many times, I'm seriously at my breaking point, and I now don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 26-year-old female, and I've been living in my own place since 2020. Like any responsible adult, I did my best to keep my place clean. My skills aren't exactly professional level, but neither I nor my guests saw anything wrong with how my condo looked. However, things changed during my first holiday season in my current job. For context, I've been working at a certain retail store since 2022. It should go without saying that retail can be pretty exhausting, especially during the holidays. But despite the long, busy hours during that time, I made sure that my condo didn't become a pigsty. Now, I have a grandmother who sometimes comes to visit me. I don't know how to say this, but my grandma is a clean freak. In the beginning, I'd never heard her complain about how my condo looked, but during my first holiday season at my current job, my grandmother started to complain about how messy my condo was. As I mentioned before, I didn't have as much energy to clean my condo during the holiday season, just like I would on any other day. But at the same time, it's not like I had garbage all over the floor or anything like that. There's usually something small, like a bit of dust on the shelves or a few strands of hair in the sink, but honestly, that's it. Every time my grandmother came over, she complained about different things, like how the litter box smelled and that the bathroom wastebasket wasn't emptied. First off, cat litter smells weird regardless of how fresh it is, and there was even this one time when grandma complained about the smell, even though the litter was changed about 3 days prior, and it was free of any cat droppings at the time. As for the wastebasket, it was somewhere between 1/2 and 2/3 full when she complained about it, and I should also mention that the wastebasket didn't have a lid, and you could see inside of it. Yet for some reason, my grandma was appalled as if the thing was overflowing with trash. After months of hearing negative comments about my condo being disgusting, one incident made me reach my breaking point. It all started when the sink stopper in my bathroom sink got stuck, making it impossible to drain. I told grandma about it and she offered to come over to help. The moment she walked into the bathroom, grandma immediately started to complain about how dirty the bathroom was. She even started deep cleaning the bathroom, saying things like, "Oh my god, this is so gross." When she was done, my grandma told me that she hoped nobody saw my bathroom in that state, and it took every ounce of strength in me to not scream every profanity under the sun before kicking her out. The thing is, I have a neighbor who came over a few times to help out with things and she never commented on anything. I know for a fact that my condo is not poorly maintained as my grandma claims. Once during the holidays, the property manager came over with a plumber to inspect the pipes. It was nothing serious and it was just to make sure everything's in order. The property manager and I were chatting when I asked her how my condo looked, and surprisingly, she said that I did a good job of keeping it clean. She even promised to tell my landlady the same thing. So if this doesn't prove that I'm not a slob, then honestly nothing would. The most messed up thing about this is that the state of my condo is no different from before grandma's criticism started. In fact, neither she me nor anyone else has said anything about how my condo looked until then. Growing up, I was always criticized for rather petty reasons and forced to live up to some unnecessary, if not ridiculous, standards. When I moved out of my parents' place, I thought that I didn't have to put up with that anymore. Yet here I am living with yet another cycle of BS demands and nobody caring about how they hurt me. Now, I will admit that my place isn't spotless, but unless my condo is dirty to the point where it actually bothers others as well as myself, I don't think it's fair to say that I don't clean enough, if at all, especially if it's coming from a clean freak like my grandmother. So honestly, am I the jerk in this situation? Because at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. First of all, I can see why your parents probably acted like weirdos when it comes to criticizing you about everything, because just look at the way their mother was acting towards you. Because it really seems like this was a cycle that started with your grandmother, and it's now trickled down to you even though you've moved out. So of course, you're definitely not the jerk, and it seems like your grandmother just does this to everybody. And I'm sure that your condo is completely fine. I'm sure it's clean just like anybody else's would be, and for her to imply that your place is a pigsty, in my opinion, is super rude. And that is not something that you should have to put up with. So if I was in your shoes, I would definitely tell her straight up that if she doesn't like my condo, then maybe she shouldn't come over, because her attitude towards it is really obnoxious, and you definitely do not deserve to be treated that way in the slightest. My father has been telling everyone for the past year how he's gonna pay for an extravagant wedding for me, but now he's refusing to pay for anything. And at this point, I seriously don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, I want to start off by saying that I'm not complaining because my dad doesn't want to pay for the wedding, but it's more that in our culture, the father usually pays, and he explicitly and many times over has told everyone, including my fiance's family, that he is going to do a crazy wedding for us. He regularly sends them pictures and videos of the crazy stuff he's going to pay for at the wedding. When me and him argue about what he pays me weekly working for him, he pretty much tells me to shut up and that I'm paying for your stupid wedding. And most of the time, that has won the argument. He knows on my salary I could never pay for my own wedding. My car insurance is $400 a month, and my health insurance is $300 a month. The truck I drive to do work for him cost in gas about $240 a month. I obviously go on dates with my fiance, and I eat out because most of the time I'm on the road, so if I'm lucky, I'm able to save about $1,000 a month. An average wedding here is about $30,000 to $40,000, so it would take me like 3 years just to save that. I have saved about $20,000, which is enough for me to move out, buy furniture, and put a security deposit, but I can't pay for a wedding and move out. But he just kept saying, "Oh, we'll see. I'll talk to the venue, I'll leave a deposit," but then he never does anything about it. The guy at the venue gave us a deadline till today, and if we don't do it, then he's gonna give our dates to somebody else. My fiance's family is getting annoyed and is now insisting we do the wedding overseas for about $3,000 to $5,000. When I told my dad, he got mad and said it would cost the family way more to buy tickets to go there. My fiance decided to go sit down and talk with him herself, but he spent the whole time trying to turn her on me. First, he told her that I take a lot of medications and order a lot of pills on Amazon, to which she responded that yes, he does order vitamins that he takes daily, as we do share an Amazon account. Then he says that I carry them around in a pill container, but she just said yes, I order that for him because he used to take them on an empty stomach, but this way it allows him to take them to work and take them after lunch. Then he said, well, you know, a few years ago, my son made me put $10,000 in a deposit for a girl he was engaged to for a wedding, so I'm honestly a little hesitant this time. For the record, he put down $4,000, even though my siblings who were there vouched for this, and he knows we broke it off because she was cheating on me. Then she asked him if he ever plans on giving me a raise because $600 a week for someone living on their own is realistically not enough. He just walked around the question. He then said, well, he's still learning and not doing enough work around here. But the thing is, there's not enough work because the business is dead. She then asked if he could help me find another job, to which he said that I need to help him. Now, I've been helping him for the past 10 years. I went from $400 a week all the way up to $600 a week right now, and I haven't had a raise in almost 5 years. I once got a job for $70,000 a year, and he got so mad that he all of a sudden wanted me to pay $2,000 a month to him for rent. He also wanted help with taxes at $500 a month, while also pushing car insurance and the truck onto me. But here's the thing, he knew that I had no savings to move out, and I had no savings to buy a car. What bothers me the most is that all this time, he has been going around telling all our friends and family of this extravagant extravagant wedding that he literally thinks he's planning for me and my fiance. But it's only now that he's telling me he can no longer pay for it. He says he has no money, but he literally just bought my sister a car for $50,000 and has regularly bought garbage that he says he needs from auctions for upwards of $60,000 just this year alone. And all of this is just rotting in his warehouse. Even my mom is telling me that she knows he has money. My fiance was thinking maybe he doesn't like her, but I've caught him so many times telling his friends how amazing she and her family are, and at this point I just don't know how to feel about my father. So I really need to know, would it be messed up if I just throw a small ceremony and cut him off completely? Because at this point I really don't know what to do. Okay, this has nothing to do about the wedding or anything like that. I think it all comes down to the fact that he does not want you to leave that job. He wants you to stick around and help his business out for next to nothing. That's the only reason he's treating you the way that he is. Like, think about it for a second. This guy is intentionally keeping your pay low so that you can never save up any money and move out. Like, he's already ruined your chance of getting other jobs. Who's to say he wouldn't keep doing this in perpetuity forever? As far as I'm concerned, it sounds like he's got himself a free slave to do whatever he wants. And that's honestly what's going on here. And just to put your mind at ease, I think you need to cut out the idea that he's gonna somehow pay for your wedding. That is literally never gonna happen, and if it does, I can guarantee you it's gonna be a nightmare. So in my opinion, I think it might be time to move out first and then try to plan a wedding on your own, because the way your dad's treating you financially right now is not appropriate. He is literally manipulating you, like, actively right now, and it's very obvious that he will go to any extent to make sure that you're stuck as some poor servant to him, which is something you absolutely do not deserve.
When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.